know my trouble was gone. Oh, Lord, my trouble so hard. Oh, Lord, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble was gone. Don't nobody know my trouble was gone. Oh, Lord, trouble so hard.
Morning.
Hey,
How you doing?
I don't know how long I'll be able to stay on this.
Okay. Well, you don't need to do this. I'm recording it too.
Okay, I'm getting retested. I'm taking me and Ollie to get tested out too.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like an ear infection or you know what I mean, like something like that. But I feel
Right.
awful.
I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I'm so upset.
Yeah.
I'm just like I always thought I was in the clear, so I'm just so mad. And my friend who I thought was my reason, she tested negative
She did.
again. Yeah.
Good.
So I have no idea if I have it, how I got it.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, I don't know. Have you lost taste or any of that?
No, not yet. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I know over the weekend I heard my neighbors like across from me, her son was over there, was like, you need to go get tested. Like you might have coronavirus. So I don't, and she's been home the last couple of days. So I don't know if our air vents are connected at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that could be it. I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, definitely keep praying for you and just stay positive, as much as you can. I know it gets concerning every time something happens. The weather's just been insane. So I know I've been feeling off, sneezing, allergies, and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I still think you're all right,
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I get my next results back.
See, trying to figure out how to mute this thing in the meantime, but until they get going, right?
They don't give you that option, huh? Lemon didn't counter us at all. They accepted the offer the way it was written.
Awesome.
I know. And now we have all these inspection reports, but I'm sure they're still going to want to do their own inspection. That's where I'm like, I don't know. Do I just ask them if they want to do them now? Since they have a bunch of reports?
Yeah. Still give them the reports and then see what they want to do. Sometimes you can use it as a base and then do like specialists for plumbing, electrician.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they've had it since before they looked at the house.
Yeah. It's cool.
Oh.
What'd they get it at? What price?
$705.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they got all the appliances and nothing was countered. It was awesome.
Excuse me. I'm gonna go blow my nose.
Bless you.
Yeah, I got Andrew and Danielle's out.
Uh-huh.
And then I also have, what else? The backup offer. I got most of it completed, but I didn't send them the backup offer addendum yet. I'm waiting.
Uh-huh.
Shit. Didn't think I had that today.
So it begins.
That we should be thankful for the opportunity, because as we know, there's many people that have been unemployed because of this pandemic, and it's been a very challenging and difficult time. I'm just kidding. So
It's weird that people don't have their masks on in the audience still.
started into the steps I have to take to make 2021 the best year ever. Number one was a production-based schedule. Number two was that if you believe you become what you think about, you know, is what you're thinking about moving you towards your goal. Number three, the mind can only hold one idea at a time. And it's interesting, on that particular thought, I sent a note to all of the coaching clients we have and said, what are the 2 or 3 things that struck you the most from day one? And most of the responses I got were that the mind can only hold one thought at a time. And one of the agents sent me a note last night and said, my gosh, I never thought of that, because often the phone is ringing, I'm calling a prospect, and I'm thinking I have to take my dog out to go poop. I said, well, I wrote back, I really didn't need to know that, but I understand the problem. Meaning that I'm not even thinking about what I'm supposed to be doing at the time I'm doing it. And then, of course, the fourth thought I gave yesterday before the break was mindset, skills, activities, action. Which of those 4 words is getting in the way? So we're going to ask everybody here, there's 50 wonderful people in the room. Mindset, skills, activities, action. Now, I don't want anybody to fool themselves and say they are a master of all 4 of those. Because, see, if you say that I'm a master at all 4, and the sky opened up and lightning struck, you'd go to hell, okay, instead of to heaven, okay? I believe if cultivated and used our ability to outthink the competition is skill number 1. It's a tough one. Our ability to outthink the competition. And second, our willingness to outwork the competition. And then, of course, I put a question, how effective are you at both of these? If getting a listing is what our business is, are there a lot of agents in every town that are out producing you on taking listings? And the answer is going to be for most of us, and even though most of you are very successful, the answer is, okay, so most of you didn't know the answer, so let me help you. The answer was yes. Okay, so do any of you have competitors that are listing more property than you? Okay, are they outworking you or outthinking you? Or say it real loud, both. Okay, well, because, and I think really what Chris and Ramon said to me yesterday, I mean, I thought these two guys were terrific, and I would thank them both. Okay, yesterday. They both said the hardest part of the job is consistency. Okay, and you know, level of success we achieve by how consistent we are. Like or dislike Mike Ferry, the message is consistent. I'm not suddenly saying, you know, you probably should buy Facebook ads. Maybe you should increase your Twitter numbers. You know, it's not going to come out of my mouth because that is not part of the foundation of what selling is all about. Point number 6, there's 2 ways to get a person involved in a conversation. There's probably 100 ways. You know, hold a gun at them and say, speak, they probably will. But we're not talking about that kind of activity. 2 ways to get a person involved in a conversation. First, tell them what you think or what's on your mind. And for all of our wonderful expressives in the room, that is the challenge you face. You know, I mean, there's a lot of expressives that I hesitate to ever say, how are you? Because at my age, I don't have time for the answer, okay? Because 2.5 weeks later, I'm still listening. But, you know, if you're nervous, you talk. If you're analytical and you start to talk, you many times can't stop. I mean, these are known qualities. If you're an expressive, which some of you are expressive, I mean, it's so much fun to be around you for a moment. And well, and then it gets, you know, you're going, Jesus, you know, take a breath. So 2 ways to get a person involved. One, of course, is to tell them what's on your mind. Or number 2, ask them what they think. Ask them what they think. And then I wrote a question, which of these 2 do you normally use? Not just in your business, but in your day-to-day life. John Sullivan, every time I see him, he asks me 3 or 4 or 5 questions. I will many times ask him questions. He will answer them and then start asking me more questions. So I enjoy being around John because he wants to hear what I have to say, and we all want people to hear what we have to say. We want the seller to hear what we have to say, yes or no. How do we get him involved? So let me start the presentation by telling you a little about me. Ears closed, okay? I wrote down number 7. If you want to look at which competitors in your marketplace are keeping you from achieving your goals, look carefully in the mirror. Isn't that an interesting thought? If you really want to see who is keeping you from achieving your goals, look in the mirror. Because it's not the competition, it's us. You know, we are responsible for our activities, our mindset, our skills, and our actions. I mean, a competitor doesn't say in the morning, all right, make sure you don't do anything effective today. They're not going to make that call. But you're going to look in the mirror in the morning and say, oh, God, another day in real estate. You know, or, oh, my gosh, I got a listing yesterday. I guess I can take kind of today and relax. So the person in the mirror is your biggest competitor and the toughest one to beat. Everybody say why? Because internally is one conversation and externally is a separate conversation. Somebody says, how are you? Oh, I'm doing great. And then internally you're saying, gosh, I wish I didn't have to be in real estate today. So it's the person in the or slows you down. Because, I mean, really, how much time do you spend thinking about your competitors in the marketplace? I mean, almost none. You know, people will say to me, who's your greatest competitor? I said, our lack of skills that we execute in trying to build our business. It's my greatest competitor. Okay. Well, what about your son, Tom? He's a great competitor. Well, I have no idea what he does. I mean, I don't have a clue on how he runs his business. What about Brian Buffini? I mean, smart guy, energetic, enthusiastic, tells lots of great stories, has that wonderful accent, you know, great Christian. He's everything I'm not. Okay. But I don't know what Brian does. You know, he's been at it a long time. You know, then they start naming competitors. I said, whoa, my competition is me. I'm competing against the business plan that I have. I'm competing against the goals we have. I'm competing against what we're trying to accomplish today. It's a tough one, okay? Point number 8, to strengthen your presentation skills. So we'll do a little survey for all the people watching this thing, hopefully. How many of us in this room have absolutely perfected at the highest level and degree their listing presentation? Okay, so no hands go up. How many need to get better at it? Yeah, just those that are in the room. So my question then, are you practicing with intensity every day? Thank God we have one. Okay. Okay. Thank goodness we have one. Well, you know, I'm a football, baseball, basketball, and golf fan at a professional level. That's about the only thing I'll watch when I turn the TV on. So you know that, I mean, 2 of the greatest quarterbacks, if you follow professional football in the history of football, are playing this weekend. You know, Brady against Aaron Rodgers. And can you imagine the intensity those 2 guys have during the practice this week? Because today's Wednesday and the game is Sunday and it's a countdown. And, you know, neither one of them show a lot of emotion, but I wouldn't want to go against them because we often get confused that emotion is intensity. No, intensity is focus. Emotion is usually a lack of ability to remain intense or focused. So if you think about the intensity, I mean, are you really practicing with intensity? Meaning, I'm on the phone with Jeff, we're doing a role play, and in my mind, that guy is going to sign a contract in the next 7 minutes on the phone with me. And I'm going to practice at that level. Michael Jordan said time and time again, I never had to play in a game with the same intensity of the practice. Because I practiced with such intensity, the games were easy. So you should be able to walk in on a listing presentation. It should almost be second nature. I mean, you almost should have the attitude, you folks are so lucky that I'm here. You're not going to say that to them, but that's the attitude because you've practiced with such intensity. When you get there, it's automatic. And that's why so many of our clients can list 80, 85, 90% of the people they talk to. Intensity, intensity, intensity. But then I wrote under this point, and this is one that people fight me on all the time, and I'm okay with that, strengthen your voice. And I say that to people all the time, strengthen your voice. And anybody can strengthen their voice. I mean, all you have to do is practice strengthening your voice. My voice, when I started speaking, was rather high-pitched. So I listened to some recordings, and then I asked a friend of mine in Chicago who was very, very big on booking professional speakers. He had booked me to speak to a group in Chicago. I got in the car with him. He's taking me to the airport, and I'll never forget it. I said to him, I know that I have a million things to learn. What do you think is the most important thing I can learn as I move forward in my career? He said, strengthen your voice. And I said, how do I do that? And he went like this. We're driving the car to the airport. Ah. That's it? He said, no. Go down an octave. Ah. I said, you're kidding. He said, try it. Well, for a couple of years, 5 or 6 times every morning, stand in front of the mirror, ah, and then drop down an octave. Guess what? Your voice gets stronger. It's a muscle. Okay? I mean, thank you, Al. Okay? But then I tell people all the time, because in North America, we have such a wonderful abundance of nationalities, because many times you have to work to lessen your accent. Because sometimes the accents that you have, and everybody has, I mean, in this country, we have the Northeast New York, we have Boston, Philadelphia, we have 3 accents within 100 miles. Then you go into the South, we have the Northeast in Florida, and then you have the Georgia, Mississippi, the Carolinas, total accent. Then you go to Texas, different accent. And then you go off to, my family is from Minnesota. Yeah, you betcha. How you been? I took Sabrina back there for the first time to meet my family. And she actually said, they were faking that, weren't they? I said, no, that's how they talk. I said, that show Fargo is my family, okay? But then you go to the Northwest, they have an accent. Southern California is all of them because we're a mixture of the world. But what I want you to think about when you're presenting is your accent possibly making it more difficult for a person to make a decision. So I recommend to people all the time, if you have an accent, say, here's what I want to think about. Watch some of these wonderful Asian singers that do not speak a word of English, that sing songs in perfect English. See, to me, that they would be great listing agents, okay? So think about your accent. And then if you really do get hung up on an accent, go to accentreduction.com. And it'll ask you where you live. And you say, I live in Las Vegas. And they say, well, what language is your natural language? And you name your language. What are you trying to learn? And then they will recommend people that can help you overcome your accent, okay? But then I also wrote on this presentation skills, learn to use a downswing. If you've ever been to the beautiful state of Hawaii, and Sabrina and I lived there for many, many years. It's such a beautiful state. How are you? How have you been? Where are you going? What you doing? You're putting me to sleep. How are you? Oh, me. So it's a command in a downswing that you lose when you have an upswing. So you have to practice a downswing. For example, just for the fun of it, everybody say, how are you? So if you've been to our old productivity schools, the karate chop was the downswing. You've never seen Bruce Lee go like this to hit somebody. Ouch! Whack! Okay, so there's things we can do to strengthen our presentation outside of practicing the scripts. Just a thought. Because remember, this is how do I make this year better? Number 9, when you walk in the front door on a listing presentation, doubting yourself. The soul will catch on quickly, either turn you down or ask you to lower your commission. Or what's worse, both. Man, isn't that a difficult situation? You know, you walk in the front door and the house catches you totally off guard. It is 10 times nicer than you had ever dreamed. You know, you can't pick up on most of your pre-qualifying questions the quality of the lifestyle or the quality of the home that they live in. And you've walked up to a house and they open the door and it's like, whoa. Or you walk up to the front door and they open the door and 9 cats and 7 dogs are all of a sudden circling you. Oh, well, Those circumstances create doubt, positive or negative. So if you walk up to the door thinking, if I got this listing, I'd really be lucky, and they catch on, guess what? You're gone. And what are the two things they do? Raise the price and lower the commission. Because that's the final jab that they can hold back on us. So watch. How do I remove self-doubt? Practice. Okay? Affirmations. Show up 15 minutes early. Make sure you're physically, mentally, emotionally prepared. Review the package that you've sent out. Take the scripts you have, read through them once or twice. Get yourself in the mindset that this deal is mine. Because I can more than once remember going on a listing presentation where they'll say to me, well, we've actually decided to list with somebody else. And I actually said, you're kidding. You're kidding. Somebody has done a better job than what I've done in the last 15 minutes. I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I can't accept that. And I've said that to them. They go, oh my God, okay, well, we'll go with you then. But remember, if you don't believe in yourself, the vote is unanimous. Okay? So when you walk in the front door, doubting yourself, the seller will catch on quickly and either turn you down or ask you to lower your commission. Go back to point 8. It says at the end of this point, strengthen your presentation. I mean, we have to be so strong, and I don't mean rawr, okay? Tomorrow we're going to bring Apple up. I haven't told her. I'm going to bring her up on the stage to chat with us. And I couldn't hear what she said. She fainted. Well, that's why I'm giving you advance warning so you can get your fainting out of the way today for tomorrow. But I'm bringing Ryan up too, so that you two can faint together. It'll be fun. But remember, you will not see them doubting themselves like you didn't see Chris or Ramon doubting themselves. Self-doubt is the most destructive thing on a listing presentation. Number 10, to make 2021 great, keep your production and income goals visible. Keep them visible. So I did one of the immature, dumb things when I started my business 45 years ago, and I'm sure everybody's had a similar kind of dumb thing they've done. Probably within a month of starting, I thought because of my work ethic, which has fortunately always been pretty strong, I thought that my work ethic was enough to help me become good at what I do. I didn't realize that if you really look at what you and I do, it's a combination of all these things working together. Okay, I mean, there's 1,000 spokes in the wheel. So I put up on my board in my office, number 1 goal, be the number 1 real estate speaker in America. And every morning, Randy, I would look at that. Yes. Well, thank you. Well, and of course, everybody would contest that. Okay, and thank you for that. Well, here's what's interesting. After a year, one day I walked in, took the pin out, ripped it up, and threw it in the trash. Everybody say, why? There was no way to measure it. How do you measure it? Okay. I've shared this story many times. A fellow in Northern California started about the same time I did. A nice fellow. I would meet him once in a while. We would do events together where we're hired to speak. And he started all these promotions. And I mean, Ron, it was not, now in those days it was fax and mail. Okay. Obviously new technology now. But I mean, almost every other day, another fax, you know, another letter, because I was on his mailing list. Number 1 speaker in America, number 1 sales trainer, nobody does it better. I mean, finally one day I wrote him a letter. I said, I'm first of all, I'm so impressed to know the person who is number 1. I said, it's an honor. We've chatted many times. I didn't really know that you had achieved this level of accomplishment until You reminded me of it almost every day for the last 12 months. And I said this in the letter. But now I'm curious, are you number one because of the quality of the seminars you do? And if so, who determined that? Second question, are you number one because of the fees that you get paid to speak? Because I thought we both earned about the same fees per transaction. Number three, are you number one because of the number of products you sell, books and tapes? And if so, how much do you sell? So I could someday meet the standards that you set. Number four, is it because of the number of times you're hired to speak? So I'm just curious how you decided to rate yourself. Please answer these questions, send it back. That was in 1983. How many times do you think he responded? Okay, watch. Keep your production goals visible, but let's make sure they have some common sense attached. Break them down into daily, weekly, monthly, so they're easier to track. So if you break your goals down enough, they're not high. So what I did is I had a master plan when I started my speaking. Well, I used this master plan for really probably 30 years. And I would write down what days I was willing to do a seminar during the week. Then as I filled in those blanks, and usually you're filling in the blanks of where you're speaking 60, 90 days in advance, I would try to determine what the attendance was going to be. And I knew what my fee was, so I wrote my fee on the calendar. I wrote the attendance, and then I wrote my goal for how much product I wanted to sell. And then at the end of each week, I would compare those. And I broke it into that kind of detail all the time. And it was amazing how close I came to the daily product sales that I was trying to attain, because I broke it down to the simplest form. I'm glad you want to sell 50, 75, 100 homes. How many homes is that a week? How many homes is that at a given time? Break it down. But then number 11 becomes the hard one, okay? Because number 11 says, increase the number of contacts you're willing to make and the sources for your daily prospecting. But most importantly, keep your database organized and up to date. This one, the third part of this fascinates me. I mean, I absolutely cannot figure out to save my entire life why the majority of the great agents we deal with make their database almost not a part of their business. I mean, I so much respect that you're willing to prospect. But is it easier to talk to somebody you know or don't know? Okay, so here I am at the C21 National Convention. I walk out on the stage, there's 7,000 or 8,000 people. And I started with, there's two kinds of people in the world, folks. Over here are the people we know. Over here are the people we don't know. And then I said to the audience, which group is bigger? Come on. All right, if that group is bigger and you won't talk to the ones you know, and you won't talk to the ones you don't know, aren't you in essence out of business? Well, that wasn't a very popular opening statement. My microphone man in the back got a hand up over here. Hold on, he's bringing the microphone. Yes, Randy.
Good morning, Mike. You were absolutely right. Last year, March, April, May, people were home and a lot of people were answering the phone, and those conversations were longer than usual.
Lengthy.
So, however, after that period, I noticed that less people than ever since I've been prospecting 10 years answered the phone. I went back and looked at my numbers. 2017, I was making 9.3 contacts per hour. In 2020, I only made 6.1 contacts an hour, and I put in more hours and more calls.
Yeah.
So I appreciate, I believe the answer is talk to the data, reach out to database more. What other thoughts can you share for me to have more conversations and get in front of more people?
Biggest thing, Randy, for all of us is to diversify the methods of prospecting we use. Most of us get into a route, a path, and that becomes our life for prospecting. Like, we have clients that I only call on for sale by owners. Well, in this marketplace, with some, I mean, that's pretty much going to be a limited opportunity. Okay, if you can give that microphone back, or have people to say, I only do cold calls. Or I had this young fellow in Toronto, the 1st of May, calls me. All my life, you're 26. I could carry been in the business for 18 months. The only thing I do is knock on doors. I knock on doors every day, rain, sun, snow. I knock on doors. And with this pandemic, I haven't been able to knock on doors, and I'm thinking I should go knock on doors. What do you think? I said, well, first I'm going to ask, are your arms 6 feet long? Well, why? I said, because you need to be at least 6 feet away from people answering the door. See, it's a lack of diversity on the different things you're willing to do. Because if you track your business carefully, most of us, our business will come from 1 or 2 sources, the major portion. And if those 2 sources are not in sync with what's going on in your economy at the time, technically you're going to take a hit. So, I called on my database, any for sale by owners, any expired listings, just listed, just sold, and then I would just knock on cold doors. So I would do all 6 of those, mostly, Randy, every day. Do 4 or 5, 6 of each of those. So I always had a diversity. So I never got hung up on being a specialist. And most agents are specialists, which is what keeps their production down. I only work a geographic farm. Okay, good. How big is your farm? 300 homes. Okay. And how many homes in your farm sell annually? Well, not very many. Well, then why do you work that? Because I'm branding myself. I said, well, take your logo, put it at the end of a hot stick, put it in the fire, and stick it on your forehead. Brand yourself. Okay? I mean, see, it just doesn't make any sense, but that's limiting your opportunities. Okay? So what I said is increase the number of contacts you're willing to make per day as the market comes and goes. Increase your sources so you don't get bored or tied into one, and then work your database more effectively. And that third part is really the hang up for most even successful real estate people. So point number 12 then takes a little different direction on how to make this a great year. To strengthen your mindset, start today avoiding the distractions the world brings to you. I had an email last night that said, and I appreciated it, are you going to go ahead and do the event with the inauguration being today? I wrote back, well, of course. Well, do you think that's being respectful? I said, well, Mr. Biden didn't call me and ask if we were doing a seminar. Should he hold off on the, I mean, watch. Businesses are all operating. The government's still functioning. Okay? Well, I do not let the distractions of the world get in my way. Very, very rarely. So I wrote down, as I said yesterday, limit your exposure to the news and social media. I mean, for years and years and years, I would stay up until 11:35. Because 11:35, Johnny Carson came on and did his opening monologue, which was 5 to 7 minutes. And I, just personal opinion, I think he was the funniest guy ever born. And his delivery was the best of any comedian probably ever. So I would go to sleep laughing. I mean, I have never watched, like, whatever time zone you're in, the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock news. I go, how is that going to help you rest and be refreshed? So to strengthen your mindset, avoid the distractions the world brings to you. And let's face it, you know, we're operating in highly unusual times worldwide. And whether you believe in this concept of fake news or not, pretty hard to believe some of the stuff that is said. So the best way not to get involved is don't read it. Question over here. So I'm going to go to the next point while you're getting ready to ask the question. The next point is raise your business standards. Raise your business standards. Raise your business standards. Diane has a question, please.
Hi, Mike. Last year, you started a program called Adapt
Yes.
to help us to adapt to the changes. And we have a work from home business model now that we kind of got forced into. What is your opinion about our agents working from home versus the office?
Yes. Well, I mean, the challenge that you face is if you do work from your physical company's office, you're probably going to be, if there's 75 people, you're going to be one of 3 or 4. Okay, and I'm all for that, and I know your broker is all for that. Okay, but you know the majority of people in the world have adapted to staying at home in real estate. You know, they don't comb their hair, they don't shave, they don't get dressed. You know, they're laying on the couch, you know, with the headset on. You know, I had a client call me and say, you told me to role play with this person. I said, well, I may have. Why? Well, the last 2 times she wanted to do it on Zoom and she's laying in bed while she wants to do the role play. I said, well, find somebody else. I mean, you know, I mean, that is unfortunately an attitude that has taken over. Okay, so I don't have an opinion. If you're self-disciplined, self-motivated, doesn't matter where you work, you do your job. But, you know, then I look at so many where you have a wife and a child and they have to be homeschooled and now the discipline areas. I mean, it's tough, okay? But that's called life. You know, if life was always easy, there'd never be any waves in the ocean. So what works for you, just do it better, okay? Watch, raise your standards. Question over here. Raise your standards, raise your standards, raise your standards. Somebody say, what do you mean? All right, okay. Do you have standards for the time you start to work every day? Do you have standards for the schedule that you keep? Okay. Do you have standards for the diversity of prospecting, Randy, that you're involved in? Do you have standards for your intensity of lead follow-up? Do you have standards for your role play and practice? I mean, these are all standards that in most cases, if we were to raise them, wouldn't the overall quality of what we do improve? Okay, now we're done. Where's my beautiful wife, Sabrina? Okay. Sabrina, no, Pauline, she'll find us. She has a little sign that she holds up. Because you guys have gotten really intense and all of a sudden you've forgotten that you're with me. Okay, so let me ask a question. This is a time when we respond. Okay. Should we raise most of the basic standards that we have? Are we doing it? And why? Because of the inconsistency that Ramon and Chris talked about. We're complacent. We're making many times in real estate today, the good people, more money than they ever dreamed possible. And it's not because we're doing more deals. The average price went up. When the average price goes up enough, man, it's a big payoff. So, you know, you got to raise your standards to force yourself into a new level of productivity and thinking. Al has a question, please.
Yes, Mike, you told us to limit your exposure to news.
Yes.
Before it was only the TV, it was not that hard to get rid of it. Now the addiction is news, is the social media, and we are carrying it with us 24 hours a day.
Yes.
How can we get rid of that addiction?
I deleted all the apps. I mean, I told you, January 1st, I deleted all the apps on my iPad and on my cell phone. Because if the apps aren't there, and then if something appears, I delete it on the spot. Okay? Because quite honestly, I don't give a crap what's going on in politics, Republican or Democrat. Bernie Gallerini on a coaching call right after the election took place. I said, okay, Bernie, you know, Bernie closed, he's got a team, so let's get that clear. I think 745 closed sides this last year. 7.2 million we brought in commission. I mean, there's a lot of these wonderful people that don't have make a lot of noise that are unbelievable. And I'm very lucky to coach Bernie. Okay? And I say that with total sincerity. I mean, the guy is a master. I said, what's your reaction to the election? He goes, Mike, tomorrow I'm going to list and sell property. I said, so you don't care who gets elected? Doesn't make any difference to me who gets elected. I'm going to list and sell property. And I said, that is probably the best thought somebody has said to me in a long time. Okay? Is there anybody in your marketplace, Al, that is going to list or sell their home today?
Yes.
Do you think they're glued to the TV watching the inauguration?
No.
Because they have a job to do.
Yes.
So I just eliminate all that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. Okay. So on that last thought, I wrote, by the way, raise your standards. Just in case you're wondering if I'm serious about raising your standards. But then point 14, and then we have to take a break. I guess they said in about 4 minutes. Okay. I wrote on point 14, this Friday afternoon, write a handwritten personal letter to yourself, stating your production goal for this year, your income goal for this year, and 3 to 4 specific reasons why you want to achieve those goals. So John, dear John Sullivan, my goal this year is to do 135 transactions. My goal is to make $1.3 million. And 3 wonderful things are going to happen for my wife and my children and myself because of that. They are 1, 2, and 3. And then I said, sign your name and read that letter every day out loud. I did this for years and years and years and years, Dan, when I first started my business. I had to do something to keep myself motivated. And it got to the point, well, I kept the letter, Ramon, handwritten, and I must have gone to medical school because I can't write very well, okay? And of course, after about 30, 45 days, it's getting wrinkled up, and then I rewrote it, okay? And I had to rewrite it sometimes about every 6 or 8 weeks. And I would stand I would get up in the morning, a little house in Newport Beach, take a shower from 5 o'clock in the morning, get cleaned up, put a suit and tie on, walk out of the master bedroom, and the house was pretty small. Michelle, remember the house on Aleppo? Walk about 10 steps, open the door to my office, close the door, take my coat off, hang it on the rack, sit down at my desk and go to work. Because I would have to be on the phone at 6 a.m. because I was calling the East Coast where it's 9 o'clock. And I wanted to get to the executives that could hire me before their day began. But I had that letter right there of what my goal was: production, my goal was for income, and the benefits to myself and my family if I did it. And in those days, the biggest benefit was make enough money to pay the alimony and child support. Okay? Because I had these 4 wonderful kids that were all little, and their mom was a great mom and didn't work, and I was responsible. Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming out so great, okay? But see, I was motivated to do what I had to do because I was reading my letter to myself. So it is a method of making this year better if you choose to. So my watch says 11 minutes to, we take a break each hour at 10 minutes to the hour. So for all of our wonderful clients that are in the room, you got to put your face mask back on if you're going to wander around. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing your best at social distancing. And I will see all of you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, Brendan.
Hey, Leslie.
I'm gonna have to see this one again because I missed bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
But kind of like the first one, just maybe go on my own time, maybe in the evening, when I'm not working, and just take notes.
Yeah. That was good so far. It's cool. We're already working on Think and Grow Rich, and working on like from the business plan. Do you know how many units you're gonna close this year?
You know what? It's interesting that you're asking me this because I woke up today and thought, oh my goodness, I have 3 escrows right now. I
Right?
have Gail and Ralph, Amanda and Eric, and then of course Bruce and Allison. We're still
Uh-huh.
hoping it's going to close too.
Right.
And then I almost had another one
Uh-huh.
because of the Ventura, the beach house in Ventura.
Right.
It didn't work out, but yeah, it's amazing how you can go from one week you can have almost nothing, and then the next week you have like 4 things going. So
Yep.
it's nice.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's nice to see it all come together and what the potential is. And this is what we were talking about, you know, the last 3-4 months. The whole purpose of us coming together and doing this and holding each other accountable, working together to, you know, it's getting the big picture and not getting caught up in the small detail, you know, and it's hard to do, but you still want to fine tune those small details. But you have to stay focused on the plan. And that's why, to me, you know, some of the best things, again, I know these things, but it's so rewarding for me to hear Mike Ferry say it, because it just proves that it's the right method. And that's keeping your goals in front of you, knowing what direction you're always heading towards. And it's hard to do it day in, day out. It's hard to do it throughout the whole year. The key right now is our focus and our intensity has got to pick up to a whole nother level, where a lot of people are discouraged right now, and they're concerned about COVID. They're concerned about, you know, possibly the new president. There's a lot of different factors, you know. Some people are so excited, others aren't so excited, and it's going to have different impacts of how hard people want to work. So we got to get 2 steps ahead of it. One of the first things Mike Ferry talked about, I wrote it on the top, and yesterday, was that there's less competition and a higher turnover of agents right now. You know, that agents just aren't lasting in this business. So it creates more pieces of the pie that are available, and it makes it more of a level playing field. And that's also what they talk about in Think and Grow Rich with the Great Depression. It's very timely for us to be reading Think and Grow Rich with what happened in the Great Depression and all the people that succeeded after reading that book and were able to put those principles into action. And it's a mastermind group. It's understanding the right qualities. It's having a positive attitude. It's, you know, it's all these different factors. You're going to see faith, belief, you know, as he talked about going into a listing appointment. Just there's so many different areas of this to master before. I don't know if we'll ever truly master everything, but you always want to strive to get better and to know what areas to focus on. So it's a lot of good stuff. I'm happy so far with what I'm hearing.
No, me too. And it's all about our mindset too, and confidence. Like, for example, when he mentioned going into a listing presentation and already thinking, oh, I'm lucky if I get this.
Right.
But that's not the mentality we need to have. We need to have, yeah, I'm absolutely the right person for this job, and that's it, you know, I'll be the one.
Trying to find a way to mute this. What's this 5 minutes? I can just try in 5 minutes. It's 9:55, just so we don't have to talk over that. But so I'm trying to remember again, when we did your business plan, what was your goal for the year? Do you remember what you were set out to do?
I have it right here. Let me look at it. So I said minimum 40 hours a week.
Right.
Working. You know, obviously I didn't consider the weekends of showing property and, you know what I mean, and doing that stuff.
Right.
It's just my guideline of what I'm holding myself accountable for. So a year-end review, right? I have my actual income for this past year. Transactions closed. And then, is that what you were wanting to know?
No,
or is it the one?
No, I'm talking about for 2021. What is your income goal and your production goal?
Okay, so my income goal is $155,000.
Okay.
Closed deals would be at least 22.
22 closed. Okay.
Listing appointments at least 12.
Okay.
Listings taken at least 10.
Okay.
That's what that's what I'm hoping to
Yeah.
accomplish. And then listings sold at least 10. Buyers sales 12. I kind of brought it up on the buyer side because I know I do more buyers than sellers.
Uh-huh.
But I'm striving to do both.
Right. And all the 3 that you currently have are all buyers, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. In the Ventura Beach home, that was a buyer too?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And you can leave your listings at where you got it at. The buyer side, I definitely would increase, but you can keep it at 12. I just think you're going to hit 12 quicker on the buyer side if you can continue at this type of pace. The key is still continuing to do an exceptional job with each of these escrows, right? And doing what you're supposed to do to make sure that you're doing your inspections timely. You know, a lot of it, what you're going to find out is most of the hard work, like it'll seem like chaos up front. And once you get past really the first like 7 days, you're good and you're kind of cruising at that point. But you got to do your inspections. You're juggling a lot of stuff. So it starts throwing off your prospecting. It throws off who you're engaging with, who you're following up with. And your focus becomes all on these transactions and closing the transaction. So the key is going to be to figure out, okay, there's certain calls I have to make first thing in the morning and you want to knock those out, but you don't want to spend the entire morning making those calls. So it's really getting good at planning the night before. And so using your journal and your weekly calendar to book everything out first, team up with Yvette, and Yvette will give you your timelines and show you, okay, what dates are coming up. So you want to have all that in your written calendar and then also on your phone calendar. And then you also want to make sure you have your minimum standards for each day to win that day. It's not just completing your task of what you have for those transactions, but it's setting a new listing appointment or a new buyer appointment. And that's going to be your follow-up. So you still have to book time during your day. Don't make it all revolve around administrative work for this property, but making sure that you still carve out time to do your follow-up, to show new property, to start working on the other stuff. If you do it, you're going to turn that 3 into 6 and then more. And what you could even potentially do is hit all of your goals in the first quarter, the first half of the year. And not saying you cruise the second half of the year, but you're going to make it your best year you've ever had. And you're going to fully develop into what you're capable of doing. So just don't ever feel like you have too much business in front of you or where you start kind of backing off. You got to strike while the iron's hot. We don't know if next month they're going to shut everything down. We don't know if fires start becoming abundant, if they shut transactions down. So you got to make, they would say, just basically while it's hot, that's when you got to strike and you got to put in and work harder and continue to build off that momentum. But you'll see what I'm talking about. It's just turning it up at the right points. So the way I always tell myself is I'm just getting started. So when I have 3, 4, 5, 6 escrows going at one time, I tell myself like, all right, just getting started. I'm hitting the stride of what I'm capable of. I've already set a goal that I want to have 5 in the next month. I want to have 9 escrows in the first 3 months. And then I'll be on pace for what it is that I'm trying to do. And actually I'd be a little bit behind because I'm trying to hit 37.5 this year, which, last year was the first year I broke 20. And then this year breaking 30 would be huge, but I'm setting the goal to 37.5, and what I want to do, like I saw, I think I took a picture of it and I want to share it with you because this is part of what I want to talk about. I want to build you and your name and your brand, just like, I want Amy and Yvette as well to build. I want you guys to build yourself, your own name, your own reputation. At the same token, I also like when I see something like this. I don't know if you can see it or not on the screen, but I'll share it with you. And it's this Liz Donnelly group. A huge thank you to the 108 clients served. You know who you are. 78,759,047 closed. That's the 2020 final stats. So they were the top group for RE/MAX Gold Coast. And before that was actually Jose Luis Morales, but I just saw that he just went to another company. He went over to ERA, or not ERA, EXP. So he just bounced over there. So now the new one, because I was surprised I didn't see him in the top 25 that Remax was publishing on their agents. But I saw that. And the reason why I share that with you is if you do what you're capable of, Yvette does what she's capable of, and Amy, it's up to her in terms of how much involvement, she wants to do with us and with our group. But if we put our stats together, even if we do last year's stats together, I want to do a big thing like that so that we show the county and we show the area how much of a presence we are. And obviously, collectively, we're going to have a lot more to brag about than us individually. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it does involve getting that machine oiled and ready. We're not, I don't know if we're 100% there yet, but
right.
We're getting there. I mean, I'm gaining experience with what I have on the table for now.
Right.
So I know I'll be able to handle a lot more.
Yeah, no, it's all, this is going to be the year. It's going to be a big year for all of us. We're all going to go through a lot of ups and downs. And what's cool is this momentum. And we want to, not brag, but we want to let the world know what it is we're doing. And it's going to attract more momentum and continue to carry on. And the more that we do and we advertise each other, the better as well. So it's not just about our individual successes. It's about making sure that, we let everybody know that we are a highly efficient real estate selling machine. And we have a method, that works. We have a team that has every aspect covered. And that's what these big teams do. And that's why they continually, you're going to see it's going to create other opportunities for us as well. So it's just exciting stuff. Just wanted to share that with you because when I saw that post, I took a picture as a motivation piece for me. But if you can do your piece and hit what you're doing an exceptional job, I'm going to do my thing, and it's already starting to happen. And everybody's going to pull their weight and do their part. We're going to hit some pretty phenomenal numbers this year, so get back to Mike Ferry because I don't want to miss too much of this.
No worries. Brendan, later we'll touch base maybe during coaching about a couple of things.
So
Sounds good.
We're looking at, 3 or 4, Ohio supposedly allows live events. Ohio, anytime between December, January, February, March, April is not the place that you're going to find Mike Ferry, okay? But Florida, Texas, and then it said you can do as big a live event you want in New Hampshire. Well, we'd have both people show up, okay? So we are looking to be able to do this year at least a couple of larger live events because a lot of you are like us. This remoteness has been very effective for those of us that are good and challenging for those that are not. So at the live event we did in September, our Superstar Retreat, as we're going to do today, we're going to have a couple of wonderful guest speakers from our speaker staff share some great thoughts with you. Of course, this one is easy. Son-in-law, great husband, phenomenal dad, Mr. Ron Cronin. Okay. Ron. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Mike asked me about a month ago if I would, if I would take the opportunity to speak to everybody. And I said, oh, sure, I'll do it. No problem. Right. And that was a month ago. And then all of a sudden it's a week away and then it's tomorrow. And then the next thing you know, they go, you're on in 60 seconds. Right. So it's a big deal. But I appreciate you being here. Someone asked me, are you nervous? I said, I have butterflies. I'm not really nervous because I have the best audience. I have the best viewers, right? The kindest people. So thank you. And and I've prepared something for you today that I want to work on. I want to tell you my favorite part of the Mike Ferry sales system, and write down the letters MFSS, Mike Ferry sales system. My favorite part about the Mike Ferry sales system is that it is a system that you get to follow. It's a system to follow. And I think a lot of you in the room here and a lot of you watching resonate with that. It's not a theory. It's not an idea. It's an actual system that we can follow to the highest levels of production. Isn't that exciting? Right? So I love that part. I mean, the Mike Ferry sales system has taught me how to think, what to do, what to say, and how to produce at a high level, right? It tells you everything that you need to do. Now, the only thing stopping us in producing at the highest levels possible is what Mike has been just discussing earlier, is ourselves. Honestly, do we have examples of people doing the most incredible production? Bernie was just one of them that Mike mentioned, right? So the only thing stopping us is ourselves. So this week, these 4 days, maybe today is the day that a lot of you, I'm going to ask something of you. I'm going to ask you to commit to the Mike Ferry sales system. Or for some of you, it's to recommit to the Mike Ferry sales system. Yes, you folks are dedicated to Mike and devoted and great customers and clients of Mike, but do you remember the system that attracted you? And and what Mike speaks is he speaks the system. So I'm going to ask you to commit, if you haven't yet, though a lot of you watching are new to the Mike Ferry organization, and a lot of you here in the room have made that commitment, but through today's little exercise, you might decide that you need to recommit. All right, so shall we get started? All right, so what I've written down for you is this. Now, this may not apply to a lot of you in the room, but I think it applies to probably more than half of the viewers watching. And as we go through this, the top producers watching and in the room, I'm going to ask you to listen a little bit differently than some of the newer agents are listening. Okay, so let me explain. The topic of my talk today is using the Mike Ferry sales system to get yourself to 50 transactions a year. Okay, using the Mike Ferry sales system to get to 50 transactions a year. Now, is anyone in the room currently doing 50 or more? Right, quite a few of you. And then some of you are not quite there. You're striving to get there. You see, a lot of us are always looking outside for the business. We're looking outside. We're trying to find what's new, what's hot, what's sexy, what's the cool thing right now, right? We're always trying to do that. And as a coach for Mike and being very connected with him in that way, I'm always like, hey, what can we do internally to make more money? Without having to spend, without having to look around, without having to add, but what can we implement, clean up, fix, repair, or go back to internally within our own business and our systems that will allow us to produce at a higher level? Are you in? Are you in watching at home? All right, very good. Okay. All right, so I wrote down 4 phases to get you to the 50 transactions a year. I've been coaching for Mike for 10 or 12 years now, and I've noticed that there are phases that agents kind of move through as their business and their production grows. Something that a lot of you may not know, Bernie Gallerini, he was an inbound call to the Mike Ferry organization, I'm going to guess probably 13 years ago, when I was a salesman at the company, and I got this inbound call from some guy named Bernie. And he says, yeah, I'm thinking about joining coaching. And I said, great, thanks for calling us. He says, I talked to 2 other companies. I said, what was the outcome? And Bernie says, well, they told me that the most I could make my first year was $75,000. And I said, did they ask you any questions before giving you that number? And he said, no, they didn't. They just said, that's the most you can make. So he called us. And my question to Bernie is, well, why are you setting your goals so low? And he signed up for coaching there on the spot. It wasn't a difficult close. He signed up. He wanted the help. I don't know what his exposure was to Mike at that time, but now, it's amazing to watch what Bernie has done, because every year we've seen him grow and grow and grow. And then he surpassed a lot of us and a lot of you. He surpassed, and then he's passing, and now he's moving up to levels that are unheard of in this industry. And it all started with a quick phone call and him implementing the Mike Ferry system. So I wrote down that there's 4 phases for you to go through, okay? And this is going to be a lot of writing. I'm going to say a lot, but I'm going to actually tell you what to write down so it's bullet points and easy for you. Fair enough? All right, so the first phase 1. Phase 1 are basically the first components of the system to implement, okay? So write down, set some goals. If you're brand new to the system, or you're newer to real estate, or it's maybe your rookie year, right? You have to set some goals. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go over the top with goals, but I wrote down something to work towards over the next 3 to 6 months. Now, I'm speaking to the new agents now. Something to work towards over the next 3 to 6 months. Set some goals for yourself, okay? The next thing I jotted down was, and I want you to put in your notes, write an easy to follow business plan. An easy to follow business plan. Phase 1 is all about the foundation. Phase 1 is all about getting it going and being able to build on something, okay? So we've got a goal. We have an easy to follow business plan, okay? In phase 1, you're just getting started. In phase 1, when you just get started, do you have all the sales skills yet? Who had sales skills when you started real estate? There are 2 hands up out of the room, 2 hands up, right? Most of us have not. So I wrote down in phase 1, also put your COI list together. COI list together. Now, a lot of you are looking at me like, well, I've already done this. I did this 20 years ago, Ron. I've been working it. Yes, I understand. So for the top producers and the bigger producers in the room and watching, what I'm looking for from you is that you're going to identify what have you skipped, what have you gotten away from, what do you need to go back to? Does that make sense, everyone? Right? So you're going to identify this because, again, let's look internally at what you can do to make more money without having to spend, without having to get into what's hot and sexy these days. Okay, so put your center of influence list together. That's all the people that you know, right? Everyone that you're acquainted with, and that's going to probably be where your first transactions will come from. Would you say that's the case most of the time? Exactly, so let's get that list together. Right down in phase 1, we're going to create our pre-listing package. Pre-listing package. Last week, within my coaching schedule, I asked all of my clients to mail to my house a copy of their pre-listing package so that we could review it together and make sure that it's perfect and is getting them the results that they want. And a long time, I won't mention any names, but a 20-year Mike Ferry Premier client, when I said, hey, could you mail me a copy of your package? Well, he got a little weird and he got a little funny. And I was like, oh, he doesn't want me to see it. He doesn't want to send it. And he says, I have a confession. I said, go ahead. He goes, I only send it 1 out of 10 times. Right? I only send it 1 out of 10 times. And I was like, well, okay, tell me more about that. And we talked about it. See, so a lot of our best producers are not following the system or some of the basic things that got them to where they are. Okay, good. So let's make sure that you create your pre-listing package in phase 1. Okay? Please write down, implement a script practice plan. And you can just write script practice plan. Okay, but a plan for practice. A plan. Okay, that includes downloading all of the scripts and materials that you're going to use, printing them, creating a file, having them laminated, but a script practice plan. Who in this room uses the Mike Ferry scripts? Okay, good, right? Who actually has the 7 basic scripts memorized? Oh, not so many hands, right? Okay, good. Hey, guys and gals, who wants to make more money? Can I give you a little insider information? You're using mics or scripts, or you're using scripts professionally, meaning you want to be paid for using these scripts. Anybody in the world that's being paid to use a script, step 1 is to memorize the script. Now, a lot of you in here are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions of dollars a year, and you still need to read it. Okay? I'm going to challenge you guys on that kind of stuff. It's time. All right, so we want a script practice plan that's got a, when you're going to do it, what are you going to work on first? Mike says pick a script. Maybe this week is for sale by owners. Who needs to improve their for sale by owner dialogue? Okay, start with memorizing the script. That's number 1. And then work to how to respond to their objections, how to respond to their reflex no's, how to respond to them and all their needs. But maybe we work on FSBOs this week. Next week would be expired listings. Week after that would be a different group and a different script, and you would just move through it that way. Write down in phase 1 is where you're going to pick up 1 or 2 role play partners. 1 or 2 role play partners. right? And then you're incorporating weekly role play with them. It's not easy when you're newer and you're just getting it going to have all these role play partners. And let me ask you guys and gals, is keeping role play partners a challenge for anyone in the room? Let me see your hands, right? Keeping them inspired, keeping them showing up on time. It's hard for us to do it as well too. But in phase one, it's time to implement at least 1 or 2 role play partners that you can work with on weekly role play. All right. Now, the next thing I wrote down is in phase one is to learn the MFO listing presentation. Phase one, learn the presentation. It occurred to me several years ago as a coach, when I would get a new client in my schedule, I'm motivated to help them make money. They come to the coaching saying, I want to make money, I need to make money. So as a coach early on, I would oftentimes just get them prospecting. You know, and then I would ask them next week, how did you go on your calls? Well, I'm not doing it. I got other stuff. I didn't do it. I don't like it. And they would resist, and I couldn't figure it out. So it took a while to understand. I'm asking someone to prospect, Alex, when, my goodness, what if someone says yes? What are they going to do? What am I supposed to do when I go? What do I send them? What do I bring? What do I wear? What do I say? So phase one is about getting like your package together, your listing presentation together. Okay, so we want to learn the MFO listing presentation. I said practice with someone each week and practice in the mirror every day. Practice in the mirror every day. Who remembers our great comedian friend Craig Shoemaker? Remember Craig Shoemaker? You know, I met, I know Craig and got to spend time with him and speak with him. And it was interesting how Craig says, when he's done 3 HBO specials, I believe, 3 of them. When he's getting ready for one of those, for months, he's standing in the mirror in his master bedroom in Los Angeles in Brentwood, practicing the face and the body movements and everything that he does. He's practicing in front of the mirror. Who wants to make more money? Some of the things I'm mentioning are kind of simple, aren't they? And they're very fundamental. But they're also extremely important for you to become the agent that's possible, that you're able to become. Okay, so practice in the mirror every day. Phase one is all about getting it going, getting it off the ground. Write down in phase one, we're going to begin listening to audios from your coaching kits. Everybody receive a coaching kit? It may have been a long time ago, it may have been recently, but start listening to the audios in your coaching kit and start watching all of the Mike Ferry training videos. We have, Tony, what do we have? We have 1,000 videos on YouTube. We have over 1,000 videos training them on every possible subject. Okay, so we want them to start listening to the audios. And for those of you in the room, I think it's time that you break out that coaching kit that you cracked open once, right? Yeah, I think it's time. I mean, we sent everyone, but so it's time to pull it out, and it's time, right? And open it up. You'll be amazed at what's in there. There's messages from Mike in there. There's books to refer to. The Mike Ferry System book is in there. Every answer, Melissa, that you need to know for your business is inside of that book. But it's amazing, my coaching clients, I say, hey, pull out your book. Oh yeah, I don't know, maybe next week. I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. And look at the looks on some of the faces in the room. You don't even know what I'm talking about. What book? What's he talking about? The one that your coach has open on their desk every week when you're on a call with them, right? Okay, good. Okay, nice. What I wrote down is in phase one, this is when you begin your Mike Ferry education. Does that make sense? Who wants to have a master's degree in sales? Right here, right? Master degree in sales, Mike Ferry Sales System. Okay. I wrote down in phase one, attend a virtual Mike Ferry event right away in phase one. Those of you watching, you're attending one now, of course. We have others. We have them this month, we have them next month, and every month this year, practically. Okay. So we have these incredible virtual events for you to attend. Sign up for one immediately, and then I want you to attend one every 30 days while you're in phase one. It's a 2-day virtual event, 4 hours each day, maybe 3. It's perfect for you, okay? Every 30 days. Phase one, your prospecting focus should be center of influence and just listed, just sold. Who can tell me why? Easier calls, as John said, right? Easier, meaning your center of influence. These are people that know you and love you and trust you. And as those of you that have prospected for years, you understand that the just listed, just sold calls are probably some of the lowest rejection that you'll receive. In fact, people are interested to hear what you have to say and to find out about the sale. So in phase one, those are your two prospecting areas to get started with, okay? Just listed, just sold, and center of influence. Okay, good. I wrote down in phase one, your schedule should focus on three main areas. Your schedule, three main areas: prospecting, previewing, and practicing. Phase one, prospecting, previewing, and practicing. Okay, the previewing property, now you may be able to do it physically where you are. You may have to preview properties online. But for those of you just getting started in the business, previewing property and understanding what is value and what is the locations and, you know, where do I want to spend my time? All right. Okay, good. So in phase one, you should find yourself in total overwhelm. That makes sense? Those of you watching, if you're in overwhelm with all of the material and everything I'm supposed to do, I mean, think about everything we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to have energy and enthusiasm. We're supposed to follow the script verbatim. I'm supposed to use a downswing. I'm supposed to use a karate chop. I'm supposed to follow my schedule. I'm supposed to know every script. I mean, there is a lot in phase one. So if you're like, I'm overwhelmed, perfect. You're in the right place. Okay, you're in the right place. You should be working with your coach at this point in phase one. Let me ask you, in the beginning, does it help to have a professional coach who's already done this help you get started? Absolutely. There could be a lot of hand-holding and guidance and step-by-step and showing you how to do it, but you should be working with your coach through phase one. Questions? Write down phase two. Phase two. I wrote full immersion. Full immersion into the MFO audio and video material. In phase two, it's not just listening once in a while, but I'm going to ask you to get in full immersion into the message, into the system and what it says. Most of you, when starting real estate, it wasn't that you got out of school, high school, and started this business. Most of us were adults when we started, and we had experience doing other things. Okay, so the immersion into the system and the Mike's message for you is going to be helpful when trying to implement it and trying to change some of your behaviors. Who would agree with me that as the coaching company, what we do is we help you change your behaviors? Who agrees with that? That's what it really boils down to. Okay. All right, good. So we're in full immersion. In phase two, we're recording prospecting calls now, and our listing presentations. We're recording our calls and our listing presentations. Okay, we've got to start focusing on now, what are we saying? You see, your skill as a salesperson is that you know what to say. So we want to start listening to you in action. We want to start reviewing it, finding the strengths, finding the weaknesses, and making adjustments to how you behave. Who speaks different now than when you started with the Mike Ferry organization? I'll never forget, you know, my lovely wife is here, and I'll never forget early on, maybe the first week or two that we met, I was a struggling realtor. And when we got together in the evening, and she brought me a copy of the Mike Ferry trigger cards. Remember the trigger cards that you can buy on our website to help you practice and learn all the scripts, and they're great. And when she handed this, she goes, "Here, I brought these home for you." Now, I never met Mike, and I never knew about the system. She just brought these home to me. And I looked at these scripts, I was like, who talks like this? And she says, only the biggest producers in North America. And at the time, I was probably selling 7 or 8 houses a year. Okay, and so this dialogue was foreign to me. But here, you ready for the exciting news? Now, this is all I know what to say. That's all I know, which makes it easy for me. Okay, so phase 2 is about full immersion, recording, listing presentations, and prospecting calls. Write down 5 days a week of prospecting. Phase 2, you're no longer the beginner. You've got a little bit of momentum going right now. It's 5 days a week of prospecting. You were dabbling in it in phase one. You did some, you called some friends, you called some family, you called some just listed. So now you're like, but I need more business and I want it faster. Okay, so now we're going to start doing 5 days a week of prospecting. Write down 25 contacts a day minimum, right? 25 contacts a day minimum. 5 days a week, phase two. Who's doing 25 or more right now? Who needs to get back to that point? A lot of you.
Brendan.
A lot of you have to get back to it. You know,
Brendan.
the 25, that number is an industry
Does
standard.
he mean 25 contacts as in conversations or 25 calls?
Our company, you
25
can't
calls.
maintain the 25, you'll
Okay,
end
so
up
even
with
if they don't answer, it's
somewhere
okay.
else. Basically,
Okay.
minimum standard.
Got it.
So,
Thank you.
and I know, and how, well, honestly, how long does it take to get 25 when we're prepared and we're focused? 2 hours, maybe 3 hours at the most, you can do that. And now you're working an 8 or 10 hour day. Would you agree with me? 2.5, 3 hours should be towards generating new business? Absolutely. Okay. All right, good. So now we're prospecting every day in phase two. Write down practicing and role playing. Hang on to your hats. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Phase two. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I mean, what would that do for you if you actually followed through with that point? What would that do for you? See, would anyone in the room care to come up here and do a little objection handling shootout with me? You want to see who's better? But why not? I haven't sold real estate in 10 years. You guys have sold it every day for the last 10 years. Why wouldn't you? Well, I need to practice and I need to get better. Well, that need to practice and get better, I promise you, is that costing you one deal a year? Well, how much commission is that for you? 5, 10, 15, 20, $50,000? Yes. Okay. All right. I think we're making progress. Right. And there's a lot, and I know you're writing, so keep up the good work. Okay. So practicing and role playing 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Write down previewing property 4 days a week. You're in phase two. When you preview property, does it help you with your conversations following that with sellers? Doesn't your confidence level go up, right? And then you're just more powerful and you're closing and you know what you're doing now, and the whole presentation is better for the customer because you're actively previewing property. But guess what people, when they start producing, stop doing? They stop previewing, they stop practicing, they stop doing the things that got them to this phase. Okay, we have to look at that. So previewing, I wrote online or in person. I mean, I know we get a lot when we go out there, but if you do a drive-by and with as many photographs as everyone puts on the listing and the virtual tours and so forth, you can get quite a bit from it. I wrote down in phase two is a strong morning schedule. Strong morning schedule. 5 days a week. 5 days a week. Strong morning schedule in phase two. Notice I'm not talking about the afternoon yet. Mike, at this point, Mike is really focusing on control like 8 o'clock until noon. Control 8 to noon and everything usually works out. If you control 8 to noon, don't you have plenty to do in the afternoon? You have lots to do in the afternoon. Okay, so controlling 8 to noon. I wrote down daily tracking begins. Daily tracking in phase two. Phase one, there wasn't really a lot to track. It's more about learning and practicing, and you were dabbling, but now you're in it. Now you're contacting 25 a day. So we want to start tracking the activities and start accumulating some numbers now so that we can see what kind of player you are and where we need to improve. I wrote down phase two, adding strong accountability. Strong accountability in phase two. Who needs to be held to the fire besides me? I definitely need it, right? Strong accountability around everything you do. Does anyone in the room have accountability around contacts? Let me see your hands. Good. How about around, you're following your schedule? How about around appointments? Right? See, so there's all kinds of things to be accountable to. What standard do you want to be held to? Adding accountability. Phase two is you're going to start working to understand your personal stats and your personal ratios. Phase 2, you start understanding these numbers and how they work and how they're benefiting you. Now in phase 2, you're producing, you're feeling good, and you understand that there's so much to learn. Remember phase 2? Yeah, you're making money. I converted and expired. I got some buyers. I got another listing, and then that one sold. Oh, I'm feeling good right now. I think I can stop generating and just let it ride, right? No, you're feeling good about it, right? But this is where people start, honestly, this is where the egos start getting out of control. You realize you can pick up the phone, ask 11 questions, and set an appointment, Apple, that's going to line up a $10,000 commission. That starts to resonate for you, okay? All right, good. Should you be working with your coach at this point? On what? Everything, right? Everything. See, yes, the system's laid out for you. Yes, we make it available for you. And yes, most of us thrive because I've got a professional coach who's already done it, and now they're helping me do it as well. Isn't that exciting? Okay, good. Let's talk about phase 3. Phase 3. In phase 3, you're continuing to track your numbers and your activities, but you're going to add that weekly review with your coach. Okay, add the weekly review with your coach. Go over the numbers together. There's a game that a lot of our clients are playing. A lot of the coaches that actually sell real estate play this game. I like to call it keeping up with the analyzer. Let's play Beat the Analyzer, right? Who wants to play Beat the Analyzer? Come on down, right? Beat the Analyzer. So who uses the Mike Ferry's number analyzer or a tracking system of your own, perhaps? In coaching, you get to use the number analyzer. On the My Ratios page, there's 2 columns that my clients know we look at all the time. Should be year to date, where you should be year to date. It shows us every day, right? It tells us today where you should be in relationship to your goals, and then it shows us where you actually are. Now, a lot of the great customers we have and our great coaches who also sell, they play Beat the Analyzer, and it's just so gives us something to focus on. I just want to feed the analyzer and give it what it's asking for. It's asking for 2 hours of prospecting each day. It's asking for 25 contacts. It's asking for 2 appointments a week or whatever your numbers are. And our job is to fulfill. Does that make sense? And does the analyzer ever stop? No, it's insatiable. It's just like, feed me, feed me, feed me. And you're like, but it's summer and I want to go to the beach. No, feed me, feed me. Right? It doesn't stop. And the idea is to keep up with it. But I found that clients who follow the analyzer, it allows them to just come right in on the red carpet on December 31st, hitting their production and income goals or beating them. And that's what happens every time. Okay? Beat the analyzer. Okay, good. Phase 3, you start asking more and better questions in phase 3. You start asking more questions. People, they compliment me all the time because of all the seminars. Oh, Ron, the scripts, they're so smooth and you're so good at asking questions. I'll tell you the truth, and Michelle knows this better than anybody. When I started with this company, with this organization, I could not ask a question if my life depended on it. It is a skill that had to be taught to me and had to learn. And I had to learn that thing. So we start asking more questions in phase 3, and we start asking better questions. Right? Remember when you started asking questions, and you'd say, well, what do you think your home is worth? Or what do you think needs to happen? Well, yes, you're asking questions, but I don't know, you could probably improve, right? There's certain types of questions you can ask, right? But you start this process, okay? So you start asking better questions, right? For instance, what happens, sir, if your home doesn't sell? Oh, wow. And certain questions open up the best conversations for you, the salesperson. Okay. So you're asked, and I put next to the questions I wrote of your mentors, of high producers, and leaders in the industry. For instance, Mike complimented John earlier on that he's asking him questions all the time. I have a few coaching clients. Most of the time, the entire 30-minute coaching session is me answering 30 minutes of their questions. Do they get a lot of value out of coaching? Absolutely. Why? They're participating, as Mike said, and they're bringing what they need to the call. Okay? Very important. I wrote down in phase 3, you'll have that administrative assistant in place. Phase 3, administrative help, right? Because you're phase 3, where are you at? 30 deals, maybe 35 transactions a year, maybe closer to 40. Do you start needing administrative help? We need someone to handle the file work, the inbound phone calls. And remember, the assistant's third job is to help you stay on track. So we bring this assistant in at this point, and what does that free you up to do now? That gives you 3 jobs now, Yasmin, right? 3 jobs now for you becomes file work. I'm sorry, no. Your 3 jobs, sorry, your 3 jobs become prospecting, it becomes presenting, and Diana becomes negotiating. Now, some of you experience this. What is it like to do business when that's your job each day? I prospect, I present, and I negotiate contracts and offers. Isn't that what you showed up for? All right, that's what you're all about, okay? Very, very important. Okay, it leaves you with those 3 jobs. In phase 3, you've put a buyer's agent in place, more than likely. Because now in phase 3, if you've got, I don't know, if you've listed, 10, 15, 20, 25 properties, are you getting sign calls? We're getting buyer leads, we're getting referrals, we got things happening, and we probably don't have time to help all those buyers, but we don't want to lose the business. So in phase 3, it's either time to bring in a buyer's agent or even connect with someone that you can maybe refer your buyer leads to. Does that make sense? Repeat after me, say, I am a great listing agent. That's what we're working on here. And having an administrative person and having someone to work with the majority of the buyers out there is part of your growth and what's going to get you to the highest level. Okay. Phase 3 is delegation and leadership are key. Delegation and leadership are key. Delegation, underline that word. I think the best in the business spend an ample portion of their time simply delegating some of the activities that have fallen onto their plate, and they're constantly delegating it out. Okay, so delegation is key in phase 3. Write down in phase 3, your schedule is tighter with specific activities in the afternoon. Your schedule now is tighter than it used to be. Very specific times, right? And then you have activities now scheduled in the afternoon. For instance, appointments. Mike mentioned yesterday at one point, and some of you should probably implement this idea, is to have preset appointment times in your schedule every day for the next couple of weeks in advance, just like a good doctor does, an attorney, a dentist, anyone that sees a lot of people like we do. Let's decide what are the best appointment times for us in our schedule, and then we can start funneling people into those times. Okay, now see, it's no longer in phase 3, no longer can it just be like, well, let me just take a look. I could do today, later today, or maybe tomorrow. What's good for you? Will you feel in evenings or mornings? So it doesn't have to be that way. You can simply say, well, I can see you today at 2, or would 3:30 be more convenient? Does that make sense? Good. All right. Schedule is tighter. You're going to continue to record in phase 3. Your prospecting calls, presentations, reviewing weekly, and making improvements. This is no time to get away from your skill set. It's time to stay heavily involved in developing your skills and taking advantage of the momentum in the business that you have now. Okay, so continuing to record. I wrote down masterminding with high producing agents becomes critical, Jim, to getting to the next levels. Now, Jim, I watch you. I've watched you for years. You come to our seminars and so forth. Everybody knows Jim, right? Everyone knows Jim. and we're involved at this level in masterminding with other people. See, because the agents in our company per se, or in our office or in our town, are they uplifting us to the highest levels? No, in fact, most of us are probably doing more business than anyone else in the office or in town at this point or in the country. So to get to the next levels, masterminding becomes a critical component to your future success. Okay. I wrote how many of you are in a mastermind group right now? The 50 in the room. How many are in a group? Majority of you. Okay, good. Evidence. You see, another thing I liked about the Mike Ferry system is that what I'm trying to do, if I'm using it or starting it, has already been done by thousands of agents. It's already been done. So I simply have to do what they do, learn to think how they think, say what they say so that I can have what they have. Okay? In phase 3, upgrading the use of your scripts, and fine-tuning the presentation. Fine-tuning it. Yes, you have it memorized. Yes, you use it, but there's little nuances and ways to change topics and ways to move into the next segment to make it very smooth, very understandable for the homeowners who are watching and listening. Okay, but upgrading your use of scripts. I wrote down phase 3 is when agents start upgrading everything else in their business and their life, like their wardrobe. Now we're making money, right? We start upgrading things. It's great. And then that brings us more business. Upgrading your wardrobe, your physical appearance. Why is it in phase 3 all of a sudden the beards disappear and the earrings are gone and the crazy hair, right? For some reason, the agent starts to understand that that's probably costing them money and they're more committed to their financial success than they are to the goatee. Don't worry about it. Yours looks good. Right? Okay, good. I wrote down in phase 3, watch, I wrote down in phase 3, you're better than most. You're better than most in phase 3. And you realize you can do so much more. And you know what? Your coach knows it too. We know you can do so much more. As a coach, we don't doubt you. We don't doubt you. We know that this system is for everyone. We know that anyone can succeed at the highest level. And I know in phase 3, the only thing stopping you is you at this point, from the next one and the next one and the next one. Okay? And then we come to phase 4. More accountability in phase 4. More accountability. Several years ago, I picked up Michael Young was on stage being interviewed by Mike, and he told the audience that he has 4 people that he checks in with 3 times a day as far as his contacts, his appointments, and his ability to follow his schedule. Right? Now, at the time, Michael Young was making $1.5 million in GCI every year. He's making $1.5 million. He's making about, I don't know, what is that? $120,000 a month. But he's got to check in with 4 people every day to make sure I'm on my schedule. So accountability becomes more role play, more role play. I don't know if you picked up Karen Bernardi practices 5 days a week, and she told us at a retreat that she uses the MFO scripts. Karen, and at the time she made $2.2 million that year that she said it. Okay, write down in phase 4 they have a strong appreciation for the teachings of Mike Ferry. All of a sudden you were watching videos and so forth, but next thing you know, I start seeing you at more events. You're showing up where Mike is presenting or speaking or showing up, and you're paying very close attention to what he says now in phase 4. You've gotten involved in Mornings with Mike, maybe you're in Think Big, and it's all about the message that he's giving us. In phase 4, practice becomes more professional. Practice becomes more professional. It's no longer, hey, Justin, how's it going? How was your weekend? Let's do some FISBOs. You want to do some FISBOs? It's not like that. You call up your role play partner. I'm calling about the home for sale. Is this the owner? Right? More professional practice. And then I noticed in phase 4, agents Carlos, they start going back to the basics that they got away from. Right? Because for some reason, I can't get to the next level. Well, it's because you don't know your scripts. You don't send a package every time. There's certain things about the system that are preventing you from getting there. Your schedule in phase 4 becomes natural and routine. Who's experiencing that now? It's natural and routine. Good. The scripts sound like you in phase 4. They sound like you versus robotic. Jeff, you remember in the beginning of using the Mike Ferry scripts? You saw them and you're like, when do you plan on moving? How long have you lived at this address? Remember? They become natural, okay? And then this one I love. In phase 4, you're running offense versus defense with your goal setting. Now you're running offense versus defense. So you remember when you were setting your goals this year? Hey, coach, what do you think's realistic? And you think I can do it? And what's a 20% increase? And and you're not sure, and you're trying to keep it conservative and be real. But in phase 4, I don't know. People's like, I want it all. I mean, how do we set a goal for 125,000 when Bernie's making 7 million? Using the same scripts, calling the same people, following the same system. Okay? I wrote down you're making more commitments to more people in phase 4. More commitments to more people. And then just a couple more thoughts before we run out of time. Because I think the phases are important for you to know. Now, as I write these, be clear that you might be in phase 2, but you're doing some of phase 3. And to identify exactly what these are, this is very difficult. But it's kind of the way I see it moving, okay? So hopefully you've been identifying what you have to work on in order to improve. I wrote down production is from planning, not luck. Production is from planning, not luck. And then my last thought for you is this, because most of you are probably in phase 6 or 7 now in this room, okay? Which of these points do you have to go back in home and implement? Which ones are still hanging out there for you? Which ones can you work on right away and get going for you? Now, Mike had a conversation with me when I first became a coach. I got this client who was trying to move from 50. They wanted to move up and eventually get to 100 deals. And I said to Mike, Mike, how do you get someone from 50 to 100? And his answer was very clear, very simple. He says, usually an agent who's doing 50 homes a year has the work ethic. They have the skill set. What you really have to focus on as their coach is how they use their time. How are they using their time? And so the schedule and what you do with your time, you can quickly rise to the next levels. Okay? All right. So my questions were, which phase are you in? Which of the fundamentals have you skipped or got away from? And what internally can you align to get more business for yourself? Okay, I mentioned coaching a couple of times. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check out the vendors that Mike Ferry has, and they're on the website listed here. Also, please sign up for a free coaching evaluation if you haven't done that yet. We'll spend some time with you, explain the programs, and help you get involved if it makes sense. And then also, some of you have already made the decision, and you need to click on the links to see the Premier program or the one-on-one coaching program and decide this week which one you're going to be involved in. Well, I want to thank everyone very much for your time. I hope you learned something. Very good. And let's bring up Mr. Mike Ferry.
Hey, Brendan.
Yep.
I have quite a few phone calls to make. Can I,
So
I'd love to watch this later if that's possible.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
All right, Leslie, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
You too. Talk to you later.
Stupid
Bye.
bobblehead. And the whole time Ron was speaking, the head was doing this. So I want you to know, not only do all these wonderful people and viewers appreciate you, the goofball bobblehead was rattling positive. And of course, Jim was typing the notes, which caused the bobblehead to go up and down, which was kind of fun to watch. Okay, so my watch says 11 minutes to. We take our breaks at 10 minutes on the hour. So I'd like to ask a favor, if I may. Again, if you're going to stand up and move around, put your mask back on, please, if you would. And second, let's try to be back in the room at exactly 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And by the way, for all the doubters that are out there, because we've actually been accused of purposely screwing up that, whole video transmission yesterday. Vimeo, or whatever it is, was actually on the national news last night reporting the greatest outage they've ever experienced in the middle of our event. Not our event, and thousands of events going on. So for the doubters of the world, nah, we don't buy it. See you back here in 10 minutes, okay? And I'm going to start charging them for this type of response. See, I've known Sabrina 24, 25 years. We've been married 15 years. You know, we got married on 05 at 5 on the 15th tee of the golf course that we lived at, which was the highest point in Palm Springs, Palm Desert. I never knew that she was a former cheerleader until today. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Couldn't hear you when you yelled, but thank you. Oh, okay. I also can't hear sometimes on purpose. Okay. See, what people don't know about these crazy hearing aids, there is a little device where you can turn them up and down and just keep your bobblehead moving this way. Okay. So, you know, as we did yesterday with Chris and Ramon, we want to continue that type of thinking today. So we have two great clients that are wonderful people first. I mean, that's always the most important. Wonderful contributors second, and great agents. And both of them have been in a very unique environment, which we'll talk about, which is very positive, okay? And the first is from the booming, and I mean the word booming city of Prescott, Arizona, which this pandemic has dramatically changed the face of the state of Arizona for population, Mr. Jeff Hyland. Jeff, if you would, please. Okay. Nice. You can come right up this way if you want. Thank you, Jeff. And then second is somebody that I get to enjoy because we get to play golf together also, which is a wonderful experience. Please enjoy. From the great state of Utah and the great city of Salt Lake City, Mr. Dan Evans. Mr. Dan Evans, okay. Round up if you would. And now a big round of applause. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dan. So these two guys are great producers, and the commonality is Mr. Matt Evans, stand up for a minute if you would, and that is Dan's brother and partner, okay, Mr. Matt Evans. And his former, and now is retiring, which is a great part of life, his former partner is still in Prescott today, and Jeff is taking control of both sides of that, so you guys have a lot in common. Probably didn't even know one aware of. So first of all, who do you work for in Prescott, Arizona?
We're with Remax.
Could that microphone be turned up just a touch? Because Jeff has a bit of a soft voice. So say it again.
We're with Remax.
Remax. Do you guys own the franchise or do you work for it?
No, I'm just a lowly realtor.
Just a lonely realtor.
I don't own the franchise. We lease a building for our team.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not the broker owner.
And how long have you been in real estate?
This is my 16th year.
How old are you now?
38.
Okay, so like Chris, it's been your whole life has been real estate to this point. So how many transactions did you do last year personally?
Personally, it was about 145.
Okay, 145. And how many with the team?
The team closed 429.
Oh, wow, good for you. That's big time production. Okay, that's great. So, Mr. Dan, you and Matt are the team. Do you have additional people on the team besides the two of you? Because you're both superstars in terms of production.
Yeah, we have a buyer agent as well.
Just one. Okay, so how long have you been in real estate?
It's been 18 years, and last year I did 81 closed and 13 pending.
Okay, and thank you. Okay. And how about the entire team?
We were 162 closed, and we had 24 pending.
Good for you guys. That's great. Does the buyer agent do much?
Yeah, he does really well. He closed, I want to say, between 45 and 50 deals last year.
Wow,
That's
that's
very
a
productive.
strong buyer's agent. Now you have 5 buyer's agents now, I think.
Yeah, last year we had 3.
Yes.
We're starting this year with 5.
And you actually had 2.5, because I think one of them was having a child, so
Right.
it wasn't as active. So now you have 5.
Correct.
And do you have a minimum standard for your virus agents as to what they have to produce?
Yeah, minimum is 24 for the first year on the team, and then we ask them to do 36 after that.
Wow. So you and Bernie, John Ames, Josh, a lot of those great agents, you in that same model as
Right.
those guys.
Yep.
Jason Penrose, that whole group of superstars. Is there much pushback? Because when you said to a new member of a virus team, by the way, the first year, 24 deals, how do you deal with that? Or do you have to go through a lot to find the gem?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate. We've got some great agents on our team, and they've been with us for a number of years. And a lot of those agents are doing 40 to 50, 55 transactions a year for us, year in and year out. And so we've been very fortunate in that way. Some of the new agents, when we talk about 24 and then 36, they get a little bit uneasy at first, but then when we show them the systems that we have in place, which are largely through Mike Ferry systems, then they start getting adapted to it and they settle right in.
So what happens if a person gets that first year or so behind schedule by, let's say their goal at the Guild is 24, and they start in January and it's August and they're at like 7.
Well, they're probably not going to get to, if they're in July and they're at 7. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Well, we're tracking them on a monthly basis, weekly basis, daily basis, so that hopefully that doesn't happen. To be honest with you, like I said, we've been very fortunate, in the years that we've had them where we haven't been in that position. But we have, I think part of the reason we have that is because we have accountability in place so that they don't get to that spot. We're going to catch that earlier, and then it's just getting back to the basics. Why aren't you there? Is it prospecting? How many people are you talking to? And trying to find the root of the problem.
Good for you. But in the midst of all this, you still keep your personal production at a high level.
Right. Yeah. Last year, the team structure is a little bit unconventional. So last year, I think I listed about 125 residential resale. In addition to that, been very fortunate to represent some home builders in our area. So last year, we sold about 40 homes for one builder that we represent.
Good.
I represented developers, so we did some land sales as well, where I have all those listings, and then some commercial stuff as well.
Good for you. So Dan, you two have something else in common. Time off. These two guys, I have high respect for anybody that can manage their time. They both have families, they both have little children, and take time off. And you get away a lot to go play golf with friends and buddies. You just came back from being on a holiday in Scottsdale for 4 or 5 days. The week before, you were with me playing golf here. The question mark people will say is, how do you guys manage all this time off?
I thought you were going to ask how much money I made off of you 2 weeks ago.
Do I still owe you something?
No.
Okay. It was a big loss for me. It's $40.
Life-changing. A lot of it is, you talk about marrying right, and my wife is a fantastic wife who also really likes to play. So it's kind of out of necessity. I've got to take some time off. So,
but you don't play golf together.
No, she plays golf.
Okay. But you notice he didn't say together.
No, but it's something where I started golfing when I married her because her family golfs, our kids golf. We go out and have a good time, and what we found is that's the extension of that has led into the business quite a bit.
Because you take quite a bit of time off.
Not months and months, but a fair amount, yeah.
Well, talk to months and months, the guy next to you. He's got the Karen Bernardi model down to a system. I've never, next to Karen Bernardi, met a professional that is able to take as much time, Jeff, as you take off. So tell him about that, because I coach him, so I know when he's not available. My assistant, when we first started working together, Jeff, last year, my assistant said, "Is he full time?" Because you'll take off sometimes 7 days a month, not counting weekends.
Yeah. Again, I've got a great wife at home, and we've been through coming from zero to where we are today, and she's been there every step of the way. And a big thing for us is spending time with family. So I'll take off. I'll business plan, to take off in some cases a week a month.
Yeah. Plus the weekends.
Plus the weekends. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just kind of adopt that mindset. And there was years, you know, with my Ferry system that I worked a lot more than I do now. But if you ask my wife and if you ask my family, they've got more time with me now than they ever have. And we're selling at a much higher level. And when we go on vacations and stuff, I've put systems in place so I'm a lot more present. You know, I'm not glued to my phone or glued to negotiating contracts and different things like that. So it's been very free.
Jeff made a comment to me 2 weeks ago in a coaching call, which I don't know if he even really knew how he said it. But, you know, he has an airplane, he has one of those, you know, $1 zillion RV things, whatever you like, Ron, like you guys have those fancy, you know, homes on wheels, they travel, he goes hunting. And he says to me, what I need is a jet for my family. And
That's right.
I love that kind of thinking. Okay, that is good thinking. Okay? Southwest or a private jet, Dan?
I'll take a PJ all day.
Private jet all day.
Private jet.
So what's the goal for you and Matt for this year?
We're looking at 220 closed for the year. So for me, I want to be 125 closed.
Okay, and it seems that you're more the production side, and you're lucky to have Matt being more of the take care of the business side. Is that a real evaluation?
I mean, we all produce, and Matt is kind of similar to Jeff, where he'll deal with land developers. I'm more on resale stuff quite a bit. But last year we had complete staff turnover, 100%. Like no one who was there January 1st of 20 is here today in our staff.
Because?
Firing and moving on. So a lot of that, but it was a wild year and we still did okay.
Yeah. So what is your average sales price?
I'm at 630.
Are you? In Utah?
yeah. Some of the sticks cost more.
I thought for 630 you bought a community.
Yeah, no, I've consciously tried to drive my price up by basically getting to know people in higher end neighborhoods, and then I'm prospecting the luxury neighborhoods every day.
Good for you. Jeff, what's your average sales price now?
On the team, it's about 350.
Okay.
Listings taken for me is closer to 550.
Oh, okay. And I know Prescott has had a huge influx because of COVID and because of the politics and the tax in Southern California. We kid about the fact that he said, we want to put up a road sign. If you're coming from California, leave your liberal politics at home. Don't bring them to Arizona. Okay? And that always offends somebody, so too bad. Okay. Has there been much of an influx because of COVID and some of the states that are a little more heavily tax burdened than Utah?
Yeah, in fact, that's what kind of kickstarted some of our higher end production was, middle of March is when we had the lockdown.
Yes.
And I remember sitting down with my wife and cutting a bunch of expenses and thinking, hey, we're in for it. And then about a week later, I'm like, I've got to find as many high-end listings as I possibly can because they were flying off the shelves late March. So we're getting California, Chicago, Manhattan. We're getting a lot of people in from out of state.
Good for you guys. It was two great states, two great growth states. And obviously New York's a great state and Illinois is a great state and California is a great state, but you've taken advantage of this. So how do you market to these people that are coming in, or is it just your normal prospecting?
Yeah, it's just the normal prospecting. There's no, additional marketing, but when kind of similar, scenario happened right when COVID hit and everything, we were actually in California when all the closures started happening and we were like, we got to get home. But we got home and, I was talking with you and I said, yes. What do I do? And we took some measures to kind of brace for impact, if you will. And then 30 days later, I was hiring staff, hiring more agents, paying overtime. And, we went from a 6-month supply in our market to now we're about a 2-week supply. So it just, if we've got a problem right now, we got way more buyers than we have listings. So that's where I come in.
Well, I know in talking to Jeff on our coaching calls, his biggest challenge was just sifting through the best quality leads for his buyer's agents. And then, of course, trying to find a house for these people to buy. Is it similar demand for you folks up in your part of Utah?
Yeah, we're at, as of last week, we're at 1/4 the inventory we had last year this time.
Okay.
So, there's in Salt Lake County, which has a population of around 1.5 million, there are 600 homes for sale.
which is almost none.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nothing.
Okay, so let's be honest. Prospecting, which is the P word, which a Mike Ferry trained agent understands and operates in. Most of the rest of the world, every time I say prospecting, they turn off this view. So leave it on for a minute. Let's find out if these people do you prospect.
Absolutely.
Approximately how much?
My numbers per day are down from where they used to be. I mean, when I started with the Mike Ferry organization 15 years ago, I was at 65 to 75 contacts a day.
Wow.
I didn't have anything else to do. And
Okay, stop right there. Did you guys hear that? So, I'm going to say to all of us, that statement that Jeff just made may be the deal maker in a person's career. Because most people in real estate, if you really watch them, first of all, they don't want to be watched. But if you watch their behavior, most of the time you really have nothing to do. I mean, really, there's really almost nothing to do between 8 and 5 for most real estate people. Even if you have a couple listings and a couple pendings, there's nothing to do. So, Jeff, what you just said, I mean, virtually is worth its weight in gold to all of us. Because if you really understand the production-based schedule, which we've talked about both yesterday and today, and these guys are models of a production-based schedule. And if you're not doing something that can lead to a listing or sale, you're probably not doing the right stuff. So you were doing 65 contacts. See, I did that for a couple of years, so I understand it. It took me all day.
yeah, and my coach at the time said, well, what else do you have to do?
What a great question. Who was your coach at that time?
Bill Pipes.
Oh, Bill is terrific. Yeah, Salt Lake guy. Okay. So about how much prospecting do you do today?
I'm at about 15 contacts per day right
Okay.
now. I mean, I'm at my desk role playing. I role play and practice 5 days a week, and then I go right into prospecting. It's from home, which is awesome. And I'm prospecting for a couple hours, but some of the stuff is to builders, developers, and different things like that. But about 15 contacts a day.
How much of your business is from your database that you do?
Last year, the residential resale listings that I took was about 65%.
Okay, which is outstanding. So prospect,
Yeah, I'm 3 hours a day, solid.
do you? 5 days a week?
5 days a week.
And how long have you been doing it? If you're not at home with your family or on holiday, how much? Because I have nothing but respect for the fact that you guys have this time off. Okay, I mean, that moves everything up a notch in my opinion. So 5 days a week.
Yeah, 3 to 5, depending on if I'm taking time off. Well, no,
Okay.
it's 5. But yeah, and then I was in a Google Hangouts group, so we were all on monitoring each other. And that foundation for actually showing up on time and ending on time kind of kickstarted a lot of growth.
So how many contacts a day?
I'm 40-ish, give or
Oh,
take
wow.
10, give or take 5.
Okay, that is pretty intense. So who is your best prospect? What techniques do you like best? And I'll ask the same of Jeff.
Well, I can't remember who told me this, but it was another agent in MFO. They said, I prospect from the office, and it's usually PCCOI and then just listed, just sold.
Okay.
But the best return I've ever gotten was merging my database with Google Maps, so that when I went on an appointment and I look up the appointment, it would show like the 6 clients that live near that. And so I'd start saying,
Smart. That is really a good idea. So you would start by saying,
I'd start saying to my clients, I'd text them or call them and say, hey, I'm actually meeting with a seller in your neighborhood. And that started like basically spurring more business in neighborhoods.
good for you.
It's been a great thing.
So then it's an advanced just listed, just sold type of approach.
Yeah, exactly. Even if I was showing a property, I'm like, oh, I was just meeting with a seller in your neighborhood. But just anything to let them know I was relevant and in the area.
You know, when I've told this story, you've probably heard it before, your tears, but I'm driving to a listing appointment 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon in Huntington Beach. And as I drive down the street, I look to my left and there's a post sign laying on the ground halfway on the sidewalk. And, you know, I mean, I understand I'm not noted for being empathetic. It's not one of my strengths. But I stop the car and I get out and I pick the post sign up and I stick it back in the hole and pat it down. I walk up to the door, knock on the door, and guy answers the door. I said, Mike Ferry, local realtor, on our way to a listing presentation. I noticed your post sign was on the ground. I just want you to put it back up for you. And I started to walk away. He said, it was on the ground because the listing expired and I pulled it and threw it on the ground. I said, I can be back in 20 minutes and solve your problem. 2 minutes later, I got his listing also, and which I did. Okay? So that was pre-Google Maps, okay, 1970s. So what's the hardest part of the business, Jeff, for you today? And I'm going to ask Dan the same question. What is the hardest part for you today? Then I'm going to tell you what I think as your coach.
Perfect. Why don't you just start? I have a pretty good mindset most of the time, but when I hit a hiccup, like I go on an appointment and don't get it, I let that stick with me way longer than I should. And so I think you call it GOI, get over it.
GOI.
Right. And 2 weeks ago, I think about on your Motivational Monday, you sent out an email, and every week I send those to my team.
Good for you.
And I sent it to my team, and I said, I think Mike is talking to me today. I actually took a picture of it. And when I'm thinking about that, I kind of look at it, and it was the first quote was, I am in competition with no one. I have no desire to play the game of being better than anyone else. I'm simply trying to be a better person today than I was yesterday.
Great advice. So now then you would be asking me, what is your opinion?
Yeah.
Same exact thought. Sometimes I hang up on my coaching calls with Jeff and I say to myself, this is simply one of the best real estate agents in North America, and he will let a seller get to him sometimes for a couple of days. And I have high appreciation for it, because we all go through those moments. But it's not the moments, it's reducing the S to the moment that moves us forward. And that's the hardest part. But that also shows the empathy and understanding that he has for his business and what he's trying to accomplish. But I would say the same thing to you. So we're
Got it right.
Yeah. Look at one for Jeff. Okay. Hardest part for you, Dan.
I'm not too far off from Jeff. Consistency is always I think a never-ending battle. But
I got 50 emails last night saying, in fact, thank you to Chris and Ramon on that word yesterday.
And that's why you have to completely tie yourself off in the morning. And even then, it's
what does that mean?
It would be like I have a Google Hangout group. I have to text people when I start and end. I have to let them know my contact numbers. So you have no options. You can't really, I guess you could lie 1 or 2 days, but then you're just a bad person. So it's not worth lying anymore. So you just have to remove your options. But like he said, if I lose a listing and it's either passively or actively, passively meaning I find out a friend listed with someone else, or actively I just lost it, it makes me not want to do my lead follow-up. It's just one of those things where it's like, man, I'm so pissed. And then once I get over that, it usually fuels like a 2-day binge of production and lead follow-up after that.
See, I think that I've always looked at the two of you as these strong, powerful men. And whether it be a man or woman, I look at that the same way. So for those that want to be upset about it, they happen to be male, I think. Okay. But I look at you guys as being the Rock of Gibraltar, and I think it's very interesting to hear, because I understood Jeff because I get to coach him. I get to play a lot of golf with Dan, which is an enjoyable experience. But it's so interesting to, first of all, thank you both for being so open about that, because it's a very normal response pattern, especially when you're producing at such a high level. Okay, we would think that they wouldn't even think about the fact that they lost a listing. Who cares? But that's part of what makes you great. So your greatest strength as a real estate agent?
I think early on, coming to your retreats, I figured out that if I wanted to succeed at a high level, and looking at the people on stage and listening to what they said, that I've kind of internalized is you have to know why you're doing this every day. And I think that's probably one of the greatest strengths that you've instilled in me over the years. Is people ask me, how do you do it? Or, you know, whatever. And it's like, well, why do you do what you do? Well, what is driving you? And when people struggle with motivation and mindset and different things like that, what I've found is you ask people that and they don't really know a lot of times. And early on, I mean, I had the vision boards with my particle board desk, you know, and everything. And it was a picture of a house in a subdivision where we live right now. It was a picture of an airplane that I own right now. It was, you know, millions of dollars, which we've done now, you know, and I look back at that and I'm like, that was so crucial and pivotal in my life. And so every day I know when I go in the office why I'm there. And that's what drives me.
So when I brought up that write the letter on Friday to yourself.
Sabrina can look, it's circled, starred, and says, I have to do this.
Thank you. Your greatest strength. Then I'll give you my opinion on yours.
Okay.
It's your tee shot.
Right tee shot. On both sides of the fairway. But I would say in the last couple of years, not to keep on mimicking Jeff, I'd probably do well if I did mimic him. But it's been my connection to my goals and my connection to why I'm doing it. Because before, I mean, you have a level of like necessity, right? And if you have bills to pay, you're going to work hard. Then once the bills are met, you coast or whatever. But at a certain point, that's not a problem anymore. And then it becomes connecting to the goals. In the last 3 years, I've been more connected to my goals than I've ever been before. And so every day I'm excited to see how good I can get. I've got a long ways to go, obviously.
Well, we all do. But you guys, I was going to say for you, I've felt in our conversations that we've had, it's the discipline you have to do your job when you're supposed to do it. And that's a tough thing to develop. And all of us know, because you guys and gals are all great, productive real estate people. And the people viewing are already great, or they're working to become greater. Because, you know, at the Superstar Retreats, Jeff, you said something to me on one of our calls. When you first came to the retreats, where were you sitting in that big room?
Very back row.
And why?
I don't know. I mean, I just got there and I was a little intimidated, you know, but a real quick, funny story. When I was doing the business, we would go on appointments and I was an assistant to what is my business partner today. And anytime that we would lose a listing, which, you know, we were taking 30 or 40 together that year, it was the one guy. So that guy recruited us and I walked into his office and I said, what are you doing? And he handed me the 4 cassette tapes, Handling Objections by Mike Ferry. And he said, why don't you start listening to these and you'll probably do a little better. And I did, and I have them. They sit in my home office on my desk right now. And yeah, they're up on the shelf. And when I got to that Superstar Retreat and started listening, started seeing people, I texted my business partner because I didn't have any money. And I said, I'm signing up for coaching and you have to pay for it because this is what we need to do. And he said, okay. And that's what, you know, got it going.
Wow. I've never heard you express that. Thank you for that. So you're sitting in a room. I'm going to ask each of you the same question because then we'll let you guys get back to your chairs and learning. There's 25, 30 people. They're new in the business. They're just starting and they know of you two because of the success you've experienced. And they're going to say to you, Dan, just give me one piece of advice that could really make a difference in my career. It's a tough question for both of you. Don't say refer to Jeff first.
Yeah, whatever Jeff said. I was thinking about this last night. I mean, you told me yesterday, and so I was like kind of running through my mind what I'd say if something came up. And I was telling my wife this, that the first, because I've been in Mike Ferry since 04. I've been coming to these things for years. The first really 10 years I came here, I would say I was an imposter where like, in my mind and in my seat, I look up at guys like Neil Weichel or Ed Kaminsky. I'd say like, oh, I'm as good as them. And, you know, they just live in California or whatever. And I just basically soothed my ego to say, even though I sucked, sorry for saying sucked, but even though it was terrible, I'm like, oh, I'm as good as them. And I like, we weren't even the same species at the time. Like we were probably both male, but that's about it. And so the biggest thing is my ego was totally in my way. And I would not have thought I was an ego person, but basically pretending like I was bigger than I really was held me back for a solid decade. And then once I started actually becoming accountable to people, having role play partners, really telling people my production, that kick-started a lot of movement in my life.
So you're saying to these people,
Drop the ego and the pretense.
get your ego out of the way and be honest about your activities.
Absolutely.
Jeff, same question. A group of brand new licensees, their eyes are this big and they're waiting for this magic pill to be handed to them.
Yeah, so there is no magic pill. And other than this, I mean, and this is not, when I went to your retreat and I started seeing the straightforward approach, for me, that was it. And what I've seen with being involved in this organization, and when Ron was going through, how to get to 50 transactions, it brought back a lot of memories, like I remember that. I remember, the contacts and doing this and that and everything else. What I did is committed to myself. I'm going to do this. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any other, this was it. So I committed to myself, and then I got a coach. And today, I will come up with things in my business and I go, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this now, or my operations manager will email me and say, what do you want to do here? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm talking to Mike on Monday. And what I've noticed is that no matter what level of production that I'm at, I can call or text my coach and say, hey, I have a question and can you help me? And that, along with the network that you get here, it is amazing to me. You can pick up the phone and call people that are huge producers and, get in a mastermind group, and the freedom of sharing that information is priceless. And what it does is accelerates or compresses the timeline to success.
Which is a big factor. Thank you. That's great advice. Thank you. So, I'm going to ask all 50 of us, 51, shake your booty, get yourself stretched out, and now let's give these two guys the round of applause. Appreciate it. That was just great. Thank you both. And thank all of you for your response and participation. And I know, like Ramon said yesterday, Ramon, that was such a classic. When he says, I always thought Mike was paying him under the table for these answers. I was. I'm just kidding. Okay. But Mike Vance used to say to me all the time, he said, truth will always rise to the top as cream always rises to the top of milk when you shake the bottom. So for our viewers, I'm not paying them to say what they say. This is who they are. And obviously, Matt, the support that you two give each other is vital. But I didn't think it was appropriate to have the two of you together. Then I thought we were teaming up on them. So, because I know when Dan speaks, Matt is speaking, and when Matt speaks, Dan is speaking. That's the name of the game. Okay, so let's go back to our notes. I'm going to jump to the next point on the steps I have to make and take to make 2021 my best year ever. And this one is a little longer. So I'm just going to ask all of you that are sitting in the room to listen. And then maybe I would suggest to all of our viewers, next week you'll get a copy of all these notes. And look for this particular point and put a star next to it. I wrote down, if you haven't begun quickly for 2021, because a lot of people haven't even started yet. Because remember when the pandemic hit, and I think it was March 14th when the president made the shutdown here in the United States, or whatever the date was, it was probably, and as Dan mentioned, and as Jeff mentioned, there was about a 30 to 45 day period for even those of you that are really strong mentally, where all of a sudden, there was a bit of a freeze, okay? And I kept saying, Sabrina said to me, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to do what we've always done. I mean, that's it. Although I did say to Sabrina on the second day of the pandemic, when it was officially noted that we all just, I said, we're going to lose in March, April, and the first 2 weeks of May, 30 to 40% of our coaching clients. She goes, you're kidding. I said, no, they're going to panic. And whether they have the money or don't have the money, their work ethic is going to disappear because they're going to freeze. And we lost probably, 30% of our coaching clients. And, does that upset you? No. It's part of life, okay? So, during that first period of time, everybody in real estate pretty much froze until, because remember, most of the states in the United States, you were deemed non-essential. I mean, here you have people calling you saying, I want to sell my home. Well, I'm not essential. And people were saying that. And the smart ones were saying, good, let's do it virtually right now. Let me turn on my Zoom and we'll do this listing right now. And then a buyer would say, I want to buy that house. I'm not essential. And in the non-essential states, the smart agent's saying, well, turn on your Zoom account, let's write it up. And I'll show it to you virtually. But I find when a new year starts, especially after what we went through in 2020, remember what I said yesterday, 2021 is 2020 repeated. That is the mindset we have to have, because the circumstances are pretty much the same. Although we've adapted, as Diane said earlier, to the circumstances better. For most real estate people, January 1st each year is not the beginning of a new year. It's 2 to 3 weeks before they reactivate, which is why we've always done the production retreat, usually in the 2nd to 3rd week of the year. Okay, and this is the first time we haven't done it in San Diego at that beautiful Hyatt resort down there, Carlos's neighborhood. So I want you to consider doing 4 things to get off and get going, okay? Because I've had so many people say to me since January 1st, can you give me 3 or 4 things that'll get me moving forward? And I go, yeah, but you got to do them. So here's what I've told everybody, including our coaching clients. Okay, there's 4 things you can do to reactivate and get back into the business mentally, physically, and emotionally. Number 1, work your database a lot. Number 1B, work your database more. 1C, when you think you're done working your database, do it a little bit more. It is your personal gold mine. Okay, John Sullivan, work your database. Okay, I'm telling you, it is the name of the game. Because you're talking to people that either like, love, or trust you. And how can you have a better conversation than that? Then I said number 2, and this one is so vital for everybody watching and all of us today. Be more responsive to your leads. Call them faster. Be more responsive to your leads. For God's sake, some of you have had leads you accumulated in October, November, December, saying they want to wait till the 1st of the year. The 1st of the year happened. We got stacks of leads every place. I'll never forget. I mean, it's like, Jeff, it happened yesterday. I get a phone call. We're in our offices in Newport Beach, California at that time, and I get a phone call from my assistant saying, there's a young lady here from Long Beach that wants to talk to you. I said, about what? She goes, I don't know. So I thought, well, what was she was looking for a job? And it was a client, Diane Mazzocco. And they bring her into my office, and Diane is just this vivacious, big smile and a happy person. And I said, what can I do for you? I said, are you looking for a job? She goes, no, I'm looking for a listing. I said, well, I'm not going to list my home, so what do you want to talk about? She goes, I want you to be my coach. Because we had started coaching several years before, but I had a team of wonderful people that were doing all the coaching. I wasn't doing any at the time. And I said, well, Diane, I'm not trying to be egotistical, but if I'm going to be the coach, I'm going to charge $1,000 a month. I think we were charging $400 a month at that time. And we're talking about it, and she's taking notes across the desk from me, and I hear this little rip, like she ripped up the notes, and she threw across the tape on my desk a check. And I look at the check, and it was to Mike Ferry for $12,000, which would be a year of coaching. And she said, when can we start? I said, we just did. As soon as that check hit my desk, we're in charge, okay? So we did our first coaching call virtually on the spot. And my first question to Diane, and she's watching, God love you, Diane, we think the world of you, as you know. I said to her, how many leads do you have? She goes, 450. I said, Diane, you're doing about 10 deals a year. I mean, and Long Beach is a nice neighborhood, and you're making a reasonable living, but 450 leads? She goes, I'm all stacked up. I said, what? She goes, I have a lead sheet on all the expireds from the last couple of years. I said, okay, coaching call is done. Here's your first assignment. I want you to call as many as you can talk to physically. Don't do anything else but call those expireds and ask them all one question. And if they answer it properly, continue. If they don't, rip it and throw it away and report back to me next week when I call you. And I said, here's the question. Do you still want to sell your home? And she goes, well, that's it? I said, that's it. Call every lead. Do you still want to sell your home? Well, what if they say yes? Set an appointment. What if they say no? Rip in half and throw it away. Well, I call her the next week at the point of time, and Diane is almost in tears because she had thrown away several hundred leads, but she had set up a whole stack of appointments. So I said, good, here's your assignment this week. Whatever you think you're supposed to say on a listing appointment, say it. Well, aren't you going to teach me what to say? Nope, not going to do that. Just whatever you think you should say it. She went on a bunch of appointments. Call her the next week. How many listings did you take? None. What did you say? She told me. I said, that's why. Now maybe what I'm going to tell you about what to say might work. It's called coaching strategy. Okay? So we changed her presentation. And I think she hit a peak. And I'm not, Diane, you'll have to correct me. But I think it took a couple of years to get her up to over 70 transactions a year, which to me was phenomenal. Okay? And she was the first of the coaching clients that paid $1,000 a month. That's why I called her our first coaching client. And by the way, that was 94, 95, and she's still a client today. Okay? That's for sure. She was the epitome of not being responsive to the leads. So, Sabrina, the bowling alley superstar retreat in Marco Island, Florida at the Marriott. You were there. We did a superstar, were you there, Chris? It was the room was about this wide and about 900 feet long. But this magnificent Marriott right on the water in Marco Island. And I mean, I couldn't even see the people in the back, it was so far away. So I challenged the audience. I said, okay, I want you to take every lead you have, and I want you to put them in an envelope and send them to me. And I'm going to find out if they're qualified or not, and then I'll send it back if they're qualified. But I want all of you to send me your leads. Now, I, honest to goodness, thought maybe one person might do it. Within a week, we had 800 packages of leads, some with 300, 400, 500 leads. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in my office, and I'm speaking full time. I'm going, what am I going to do with this crap? So I threw it all away. I threw everybody's leads away, and I wrote them back a note. Your leads were no good, find new ones. Okay. And almost every person's production improved instantly. Because the biggest challenge we have with leads is the massage process. We just keep massaging them and massaging them. Because maybe if I make them feel real good, they may want to do something. Watch, call every single lead you have. We end today at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Everybody in this room, everybody viewing, call every lead you have and you ask them this question. If it's a buyer, do you still have to buy a home? With a smile, with energy and enthusiasm. If it's a seller, do you still have to sell your home? And if they say yes, you say, good, what day in the next 3 days should we get together? And that's the two questions you ask. And they say, well, we can't get together for 3 months. Thank you, call me when you're ready, and then discard the lead. Because we have this crazy fantasy that if we massage them enough, now, if you keep massaging them, could they deal with you, yes or no? Take your bobblehead and knock it up and down, okay? But the odds are most of them won't. Be faster in lead follow. Be more aggressive. Then I said point number 3 of the 4 things. To stimulate your mind, you have to stimulate the market. Now think about just what I said. To stimulate your mind, you have to stimulate the market. How do you stimulate the market? 20 just listed, just sold phone calls per day. That will work better than anything else next to your database today. And I've been saying that for the last 6 months. You can actually create a market, because I am 100% under the belief the reason this inventory challenge that Jeff and Dan just expressed, which we all know, is because 99.9% of all the agents in North America today do not, under any circumstance, prospect social media, branding, marketing, advertising, mailing, and then waiting, hoping somebody calls. Because you've been convinced by all these wonderful gurus that branding is the name of the game. And branding yourself on LinkedIn in a t-shirt with your hat on backwards is a really crappy brand, okay? Because you have to understand something. People are looking for profession. Can you imagine going to American Airlines at the airport or Delta and the captain standing at the front door in shorts, a t-shirt and hat on backwards? If an attorney shows up in court and is not dressed professionally, the judge sends them home. But in real estate, hey, how you doing? By the way, I thought that was hysterical because I have 9 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, and that little Sean, his little boy, that cute mother over there, the mother, I'm on a FaceTime call from last night. All of a sudden, he stands up and starts into his dance. I love it. Nice going, Dad. Okay, you're a good teacher. And then point number 4, intensify the role play. Intensify it. You know, we're getting better at it. Practice at the level of a professional athlete. Practice at the level of a professional athlete. If you want to make a big, big, big difference in your career, practice at that level. 2 hands went up, and my microphone man, hello, microphone man, help, microphone, okay, good. So let's go to this back corner. Thank you, sir. And tell us your name and where you're from, because not everybody's had the good fortune to meet you yet.
Hey, Jeff LaRue, Knoxville, Tennessee. Glad to be here.
And we are thrilled. Thanks for coming all the way. Who's come the farthest? Okay, Diana, Fort Lauderdale. Stand up 1 sec. Jeff, of course, is from Tennessee. Anybody else in the room? Whereabouts? I'm sorry? Mississippi. Is there a city there, or just anybody from Mississippi? Just it's one spot. Okay, and your husband is with you. Okay, we're in Mississippi, the home of Elvis Presley, Tupelo, Mississippi. Anybody else from a long ways away? Stand up. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, beautiful part of the world. And where are you from? Whereabouts? Stand up. Saratoga Springs. We've been there, and we had a beautiful experience there. Whereabouts? Connecticut. Whereabouts? Nice part of the world. And go ahead. Whereabouts in Florida, Stephen? Stuart, Florida, beautiful part of the world. Let's give all these long distance travelers a nice round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, question.
Hey, thank you so much. Glad to be here, Mike. The question I had was twofold with database. It's work your database, of course. What do you recommend that we say when we call our database, A, and then B, if they don't answer, what type of message should we leave?
Good. So first of all, thank you. When you're calling your database and they are not home and you leave a message of any type, it is considered a contact. Okay, let's get that clarified. So I'm calling my database, and the first 4 calls, nobody's home and available. On a database, that is a contact. On a by owner, expired, just listed, just sold, it is not a contact. But on a database, it's a contact. Okay, if you leave a message, it's a contact. So then the question, and I'm going to delay the break for a minute to answer Jeff's question, so we'll go a minute past our regular time. So Jeff, in today's society, a conversation that is of personal level to your database to start is an important one. So Jeff is a long time past client, a friend. I haven't talked to him in a while. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Jeff, it's Mike. First of all, everybody in the family healthy and safe.
Yes, Mike, doing great.
Good. And how are you doing with your job? Everything okay in the personal life with your
Yes,
business?
yes, wonderful.
Great. Good for you. I'm giving any thought to possibly moving up, moving down, needing more space with this pandemic.
I hadn't really thought about it.
Well, would you and your wife talk about it? Let me know if you want to move up or move down.
Absolutely.
By the way, who do you know that would like to sell their home?
Maybe this guy that I work with.
Good. May I have that name and number? Okay. I mean, it's simple as that. Okay. But well, Jeff's question is so important. A year ago, I would say, if you're calling your database, you start with, this is a business call. Because starting a personal conversation at your database, all of a sudden, as one of you mentioned, your calls are extended because you're in personal conversations because of the COVID problem we've all experienced. So today, my first question, Jeff, would be healthy, everybody's safe, everything okay. And get that out of the way, then go to your business call. But after COVID is done and pre-COVID, hi, Stephen, it's Mike, this is a business call. Because it's easier to transfer from a business to a personal conversation than it is from a personal to a business conversation. Thank you, that's a great question. Okay, with that being said, my watch says 9 minutes to 12 Pacific Standard Time, so we'll resume in 10 minutes at 12:01. Thanks for a great morning so far. More to come. Thank you, everybody. Response, of course. The next point that I want to share with all of you is probably one of the most important because it's probably what I consider to be one of the key elements in building a long career. And I don't care what kind of a coach you have or what trainer you follow, or whether they're a former Mike Ferry person or they have a new magic formula. This point applies to anybody that's going to build a long-term real estate career, period. So thank you. Now we'll go to the next point. Oh, just kidding. Understand that the speed and efficiency of doing deals, because I'm working under the assumption that all of our viewers want to do more deals more efficiently, a little bit faster. I mean, to be involved in a Mike Ferry event and not have the goal to improve seems silly to me. It's like owning a gym membership but never going. Okay, you're not going to get any better. The speed and efficiency of doing deals is based on the strength of my sales foundation. The strength of my sales foundation. And of course, this is where, see, people say, this Mike Ferry stuff, it's all this old crap, the same old thing. I've been teaching this old crap for 45 and a half years. And it's been working for 45 and a half years. Everybody say why? Because it works. It's not a complicated issue, okay? So of course, as I do all the time, I went to Webster's Dictionary because people say, what exactly does the word foundation mean? So the word foundation, a body or support that is something that is built upon. Okay, so there's a little stage up here. And below the stage are probably 50 little steel devices which keep the stage elevated. So we have this incredible, great partner in Moscow, Russia, Vladimir. And I mean, the guy's just, you'll hopefully all meet him after the pandemic at one of our events. Some of you have probably met him because he's come over for several events. Just a great guy. So our last time in Russia, which was last September before the pandemic started, were you at the last one, Ron, or the one before? Do you recall? Yeah, you were at the first event, which Ron came to us with Russia. And I want to tell you a cute story about your husband, my great son-in-law. We are staying in a beautiful Ritz-Carlton at Red Square. And our suite looked over, I don't know, I guess it's called President Putin's headquarters, which, what is that called? The Kremlin, okay? I mean, it's breathtaking. And Red Square is breathtaking. And Moscow is, if you've never been there, put it on your list. It is simply one of the most beautiful cities we've ever been in. And there was a moment when Ron and I and Serena walked into Red Square. And Ron kind of stepped off to the left, and I hear him on his cell phone. Mom, I'm sitting in Red Square in Moscow, Russia. It was one of those moments that just, to me, was just a highlight, okay, to have somebody experience what we experienced. But what's interesting, when you look at our partner, Vladimir had been coming to our events, John, for probably 7 or 8 years. I never knew he was there. So he was teaching the Mike Ferry system inside of his little business for 7 or 8 years. So when we finally met and he decided to work as a partnership, there was no transfer of knowledge because he had such a strong foundation already built. If anybody ever built a house, do you usually put the roof on first? What goes first? I'm sorry? And it's generally made out of concrete, steel. All right, a sales foundation is the same as building a house. You don't start on day one by taking 11 listings. And if you do, it's a mistake and somebody gave you something. And that's even a blessing. You start by learning how to sell. So if you don't have strong skills, you don't have a strong foundation, therefore you'll have a hard time remaining motivated on those days you're not in the mindset of working. Identify which skills you need to develop. So we'll do a little test, okay? For all of us in the room, take a moment and identify and then write down, so nobody has to see it if you're uncomfortable, which of the now watch, time management, database, prospecting, lead follow-up, pre-qualifying buyers, pre-qualifying sellers, listing presentation, showing property, handling objections, closing the sale, negotiating the contract, and starting over again the next morning. Which of those 12, and let's everybody do it, be honest, is the hardest one for you? And write it down. Which is the hardest one for you? And be honest, okay? Now, if you're writing down time management, database, prospecting, we have another whole problem, okay? And Chris, it's a great question to ask your coaching clients every couple of months to help find out which one they should be working on. So, Apple, what did you write down? Okay, starting over again the next day. Ah, excellent, okay? Diane, what did you write down? Starting over the next day. Well, that's interesting. Okay. John, what did you write down? Handling objections. I would think that they would be a little uncomfortable giving you one with your size because you're a big, strong guy. We want to think it over. No. Okay. Paula? I'm sorry, real loud. Asking for the appointment when prospecting. Okay, Pauline? Can't hear you. Time management, fair. Ramon? Following the listing process. Good, okay. So you're seeing there's a variety of answers, and that's okay. Okay, Carlos? Starting at 0, starting over every day, okay? And of course, you guys know that one of the things that I think is most important is to quit celebrating every day when you do something positive, because the celebration usually dampens the motivation, okay? Because, people would say to me, oh my God, you took a listing. Yeah, I'm going to go take another one. Because my job is to take a listing and get it sold, okay? So the word foundation means a body or support that something is built upon. If you don't have strong skills, you don't have a strong foundation, therefore you have a hard time remaining motivated on those days that you're not in the mindset of working. So probably at this point, if we just stopped the entire event right now and I said, thank you for being part of it, and if you really focused on that, it would be worth the cost of your seminar. Next point I wrote down, because nothing is going to happen as fast as you would like it to, including the speed of your start in the calendar year 2021. You have to accept the fact that it's a process that takes time. And that's probably the hardest part of our business. Accepting the fact, Ryan. So Ryan, how long in the business? 15 years. And your goal this year is to do 75 transactions. And in your town, that's a lot of business, okay? Because what is the population of the whole area, the counties, etc.? So he has to work in 3 entire counties to get to 250,000. And remember, half of those are kids. So it's not like you have a big market. But it takes time, doesn't it? Okay, and everything takes more time than what you think. And no matter how much you want to chase it, it takes time. So I wrote some examples. I wrote, first example, Henry Ford started Ford Motor Company at age 40. Everybody thinks Henry Ford started at like 18. Sam Walton started Walmart at age 44. If you have not read all the different books written on Sam Walton, read them. I have found them to be some of the most inspiring business books that I've ever read. Sam Walton, okay, Steve Jobs, okay, anything on Warren Buffett. In fact, let's write down this name, Janet Lowe, L-O-W-E. Janet Lowe she's written about 6 or 7, maybe 8 books. And they're the name of a famous person, and then the word speaks, like, Sam Walton speaks, okay, Oprah speaks. It's a wonderful series. The one I love the best was Warren Buffett Speaks. And what she does, she interviews these people. She has some very interesting, intriguing questions. They're only like 120 pages. They're easy books to read. But the classic was Warren Buffett. I think one of the last questions she asked Mr. Buffett at the end of the interview, what would you like people to say when they walk by your casket at your funeral? He said, I want them to look down and say, wow, he was really old. Which is really a great line when you think about it. But Sam Walton's books are fabulous. Ray Kroc started McDonald's at age 52. Harlan Sanders started KFC at 65. So let's write down in capital letters, it's never too late. It's never too late. It doesn't matter what your experience is, what you've done so far in your past in real estate, it's never too late. And that's probably the greatest thing about real estate, it's never too late, okay, to begin doing the things that build the foundation for you. So I wrote down the next point, to get off to a much faster start, do not let the thought of market size or market conditions affect your ability to do your job every day. Do not let market size or market conditions. Many of you remember the superstar agent and superstar coach, Kathy Anderson, the retired, I think she was 22 years as a coach when she retired. And she was in some little tiny town, in some little tiny state in the very northeastern part of our country. And Kathy was doing 100 transactions a year. And there were 100 agents in the town. And she had like a 35% market share as an individual. And all the rest of the agents in town said, hey, can't do a lot of business here. There's not enough people. Isn't that amazing? Okay. I mean, she couldn't have been in a smaller place. Question up here. And the phone is on, the microphone's on. Raise your hand so he can see you. There you go. Thank you. Melissa?
Mike, have to be honest.
Okay.
In October 2020 until December, I lost about 15 to 20 transactions.
So between the COVID starting and the end of the year, you lost 15 to 20?
October.
In October?
In October until December.
To December. And now were they listings sold or buyer controlled sales?
Both.
Both.
Listing, and they called me back, cancel it. And on the buyer side, and terminate it.
They what?
Terminate the contract.
Terminate the contract.
and they think that I'm not doing a good job because we submit offer, we got multiple offer, and they not listen to me. So that's
So
why
you
they
experienced what everybody else experienced.
right. And I didn't know what to do. I keep working.
That's the answer.
Is that right?
Is that
So
you're 100% right. I mean, the real estate market, Melissa, you're a veteran and you're a great agent. The real estate market in every part of the world is kind of like the sea coming ashore. It
Right.
comes in waves.
So did I do anything wrong, Mike?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
but go do it again.
Right.
And see, the truth is there's no way for me to know the answer. But
I
here's
see.
the good news.
Yes.
How many deals did you close in the calendar year 2020?
52. It's supposed to be 60.
52 or 60?
52.
52.
52.
There's about 15,000 viewers that would love to have your problem. Okay, now I
Yes.
understand what you're saying. Watch. Personally, emotionally, physically, mentally, as a human being, your life is in waves. Okay?
Right.
And we go through periods where nothing works right, and we do periods where, oh my God, I can't believe that I was able to do 15 transactions. It's just called life.
So Mike, the second question here, I watched, what is it, Elon Musk?
No, not Ethan.
Elon
Okay,
Musk.
I saw your question.
Yes.
You missed one part of what he said.
Ooh.
It took place 25 years ago.
Right.
That was a quote from years and years and years ago.
Right.
She's referring to Elon Musk saying, I worked 100 hours a week, 7 days a week for years to build my companies. And she said to me in a question, I just read it at the break, should I commit to 100 hours a week, 7 days a week, taking 1 hour for lunch, and could I achieve my goals faster? No, you'll pass out, faint, and you'll be dead soon. But that was when he was a young man.
Right.
So you've taken a quote from years ago and tried to apply it to today. Don't do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
Two good questions. Thank you. Okay. So, but here's my point. If you want to get this business moving forward, get over your market size and market conditions. It doesn't matter. So here's an interesting little thing we learned about the wonderful state of Nevada, or maybe our Las Vegas friends can, maybe it's just the city of Las Vegas. You cannot buy a car from a car dealer on Sunday. That is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. So Al, you decide you want to go buy a new Mercedes? Fine, you can't do it on Sunday. Now, I have no idea why. I mean, I think it's wonderful that a business is closed and gives people time off and they can be with their family, etc. But in most of the world, the car business is done on Saturday and Sunday. And yet, these dealers are as successful as any place in the country. They've adapted to working 6 days instead of 7. They're not going to let the conditions affect the fact that they're trying to sell a car. So a year ago, or maybe a little longer, we decided to buy one of these, what do they call, Lincoln something, Navigators. So we go to the Lincoln dealer in Henderson, which is the suburbs. And this guy's got this brand new, all black, he calls, it's a black label. Okay. I have no idea what that means. Well, what do you drive, sir? Well, we have a Mercedes Maybach and a Rolls Royce. Oh my God. And the first thing he did then is says, the price on this is $110,000 and we don't reduce the price 1 penny. Well, I think it's because I told him what I drive that he decided to stick the price. And then we chatted for about a half an hour and I said, okay, let's go, honey, because he's not going to reduce the price. So he calls the general manager and they gave us a big $500 discount. You know what he said to me? Mike, this car will be sold today. The demand is so high. I said, we're in Henderson, Nevada. You don't have any cars on the lot. He said, because they're in demand. We wrote him a check. Okay? You can't let market size question over here and market conditions affect what you do. Because if you do, guess what? You're not going to do any business. And the microphone is coming right down the aisle.
Hi there, Mike. Carly Mayer, Boulder County, Colorado.
Boulder, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a great city.
I have a goal to more effectively and efficiently increase my database size. I also want the goal of increasing my price point. Who do I need to be targeting to increase my price point or put people in my database that are going to help me achieve that?
Which one?
Oh, well, I was wondering if there's people that I need
Which one do you want to do first?
Oh, I would love to do them simultaneously.
Well, and you can't hold two thoughts in your head at the same time.
Okay.
So you missed the key point of yesterday.
Okay.
So which one do you want to do first?
I would love to build my database more effectively and efficiently.
Good. All right. So in building your database, first, Carly, we've known each other a long time. You've been in the business a long time.
15 years.
Okay. And approximately in your 15 years, how many transactions have you done?
Probably over 500. Over 500.
And do you have everything? Thank you. Okay. You honestly have every name of every buyer and seller represented in your database, honestly?
No, because I have roughly 550 people in my database.
Okay. So the first thing you do is you reinvest the time to get the names and contact on every past client you have. And it doesn't matter where in the world they went. Okay. They still should be in your database. Have you got, honestly, now you don't have to answer, do you honestly have all of your friends and your spouse's friends and your children's friends names in your database? She's shaking her head no.
No.
Do you honestly have every relative you have in the world in your database?
No. And does it matter
No,
where
no, I don't care. I don't care about the excuses. You asked about building a database. I'm basically telling you how. Yeah. Okay. Do you have all of your neighbors, whether you like them or dislike them, in your database? No. Do you have all the people that you do business with, your insurance man, your car sales guy, your doctor, your attorney, your advisors, your accountant, your database? No. Do you have all the people that you give money to, the dry cleaners, the gas station guy that owns the gas station, the manager of the grocery store? No. Well, outside of those, you're doing a great job not building your database.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Carly. Okay. I was only an agent for 18, 20 months when I ended up purchasing the company I worked for at the time. And I sold my database. I had built a database of 800 names in 18 months, Carly. Because everybody I just talked about was my database. And then when I got out of the business, a few months later, I sold my database of 800 names to a guy for $5,000, which in the early 70s was a lot of money. It was all on 3x5 cards. He bought the box. He worked that database up until about 5 years ago when he retired, and he had about, I think, 5,500 or 6,000 names. Lucy Ham has 7,000 or 8,000 names in her database, and she hasn't been in the business that much longer than you. And she talks to 20, 25 of those people a day, and it represents a couple hundred transactions a year. I think we have a winner here. Okay, question up. Thank you, Carly. Question.
Carly, I think Mike's been saying it, just listed, just sold calls also. And that's something that I've been doing a lot. And when you are working a specific area, I don't know, maybe around your neighborhood would be a good one. That's what I started doing a year ago after I was working with Tony and wanting to work in a smaller area and not have to drive, because San Diego is pretty large as well, driving 30.
What does this have to do with the question of database?
Well, I was going to say
this is an expressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just let's say just sold, and they're your neighbors, and you talk to them and you connect with them, and then you ask them who do they know. Maybe they may be thinking of selling as well. You're going to add those names and numbers, and it's a lot easier to get their emails, especially if you live in that neighborhood.
You could probably add 5 names a day if you wanted to. But the most common thing I hear is exactly what Carly expressed. 10, 15, 20 years, 500 names in your database. And then you heard, I think it was yourself, Jeff said that was 60% of your business comes out of your database, and he's doing more than double, okay, what most of you do. So I think what Carlos and Carly and Jeff said supports what we're saying. So the next point I wrote down, to start fast and to keep going quickly, you have to develop the attitude, listen carefully, to not walk away from a transaction. Some deals are not worth the commission. Mike, are you saying? Yes, I am saying you got to develop the attitude to not be afraid to walk away from a deal. Some deals are not worth the commission. Okay, so let's do a be honest. Has anybody in this room in the last couple of years taken a listing or a sale and really determined quickly that you hope that you never see the prospect again? So just those of you that are here. And then you go right into the transaction saying, God, I hate these people. They're the worst people I've ever met. And then you have to spend on a listing 3 to 6 months with them. So you're into self-abuse. I mean, I would turn deals down all the time. I mean, I would go on a listing presentation after pre-qualifying, and they were motivated and qualified, get to the house, and they would make some smart aleck remark, and I'd say, you know what, this is not going to work. Thanks for your time. Call somebody else, and I'd leave. I remember Pat McVeigh gave me a listing, and I walked in the house at the appointed time, 7 o'clock. I pre-qualified the wife. I get to the house, and the husband's sitting in one of those old-fashioned lounge chairs with one of those little clip-up tables, not as fancy as what you have. I can't remember what they call you. Snap them together, and you sit him next to your couch or your chair, and he's sitting there with his feet up, and there's 6 empty beer bottles, and it's 7 o'clock at night. And I walk in the house at 7 o'clock, the appointed time, and the wife answers the door, and Mike, very nice to meet you, and nice to meet you, sir. Could you join us in the kitchen? He said, I'm not getting out of this chair. If you want to talk to me, you come sit over here. I said, you know what? I got a great idea. Let's do somebody else, and I left. I get back to the office. Okay, thank you. Well, as you've heard me say, there are more nuts than there are squirrels to eat them. And I don't feel like dealing with the nuts. I get back to the office. Pat said, what happened? I told him what happened. He goes, okay. I mean, we're not attached to the outcome, okay? But boy, I'll tell you what, some deals are not worth the time, energy, and commission earned. Don't let people beat you up. And you don't have to if you prospect. But if you don't prospect and you get one of these people, I mean, some people, this COVID, let's face it, this COVID thing has brought out some interesting emotions in people, both good and bad. And some people are kind of crazy to start, and this hasn't really done anything more than accelerate that. And it's a terrible situation, but it's called the truth in what goes on in our business. And some of these people, especially the buyers, they start making demands, and we're kind of running around like a lapdog behind them. I mean, what are you doing to yourself? You want to speed up the business, yes or no? Don't get involved in transactions where they're trying to beat you up. Will it be the commission, the price, or I can only see you Saturday at 7 o'clock at night. Actually, you can't see me Saturday, 7 o'clock at night. Why not? Because I don't work Saturday nights at 7 o'clock. Okay, call one of my competitors. And I've told people in this industry over my career, I can give you Floyd Wickman's phone number, Danny Kennedy's phone number, Tommy Hopkins' phone number, but I'm not putting up with this, so call somebody else. I had a call, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years ago. Like, this is so-and-so, and I'm an executive vice president in one of the largest franchises in the world. And I'm thinking, gee, good for you. You probably make 150 grand a year, and don't be offended. It's called reality. And we're thinking about hiring you to come and speak at our convention. I said, well, that's great. When is your convention? Well, the convention is going to be at this time. And I said, where is it going to be held? Well, it's going to be held in Hawaii. And I went, trip to Hawaii. We have a house there. Huh. We'll go to Hawaii, speak, get paid, and then we'll fly to our house in Maui. I said, great. What questions do you have? Well, the first question I have is, what do you charge? I said, I charge a flat fee of $25,000. I would never pay $25,000 to hear you speak. I said, well, you don't have to listen. You just have to pay me to speak to your audience. And I'm thinking in my mind, I don't really give a shit whether he listens or not. Excuse my language, but I didn't care. Well, I don't think we're ever going to consider. I can hire 5 speakers, 5,000 each instead of paying you 25,000. I said, well, actually, that economically, that makes a lot of sense. Why don't you hire 5 and enjoy the experience and have a great convention? Well, are you saying you don't want the job? No, I'm saying that you don't want to pay me. Well, I don't want to pay you. I said, well, then I don't want the job. He said, well, quite honestly, I have to offer you the job. Okay, why do you have to offer me the job? Because my boss said I had to hire you. I said, well, are you going to tell your boss that you can't hire me, or are you going to hire me? Well, I'm going to do what my boss said. I said, well, okay, I'll send you a contract. And I did the job. But I mean, you know, sometimes you're saying, what is this conversation all about? So next point, since we mentioned mindset earlier, to keep moving forward quickly, every morning, every day around noon, again at 3 o'clock, spend a couple of minutes thinking about what you can do and what you can accomplish, not what is going to stop you or what you can't do. Or in essence, you've heard me say for years, 3 or 4 times a day, do a mindset break. Refresh that powerful computer called the human brain. Because, things get in the way, you have a couple deals fall apart and, and this is all called part of the life of a top producing agent, okay? See, here's the good news. There isn't a 3-deal-a-year person in real estate that's had 15 deals fall apart in 3 months because they've never done 15 deals. So, Melissa, you have to be proud of yourself. You now hold the record for this group for the most deals fall apart in the least amount of time. Let's give her a nice round of applause. But you got to take mindset breaks to keep yourself on track, because life in this business, especially at the pace you guys work, can be a bit of a challenge. Point number 22, to keep moving forward quickly, we have to understand that rejection and failure are part of the process. Rejection and failure are part of the process. It's just called life. And you can't let them stop you, because if you do, then rejection or failure wins and you don't. Isn't that an interesting thought? I mean, do you really want to let rejection and failure win over you? No way. I mean, I don't care if you're a brand new licensee, if you've been in the business 30 years, if your broker has forced you to watch this crazy Mike Ferry, if you've been looking forward to this event, if you're letting rejection and failure beat you, the winner is rejection and failure. So I wrote down there's 3 thoughts in relationship to this. And the first, my friend Neil Schwartz, that I talk about a lot. By the way, I think Neil has the biggest group of any one broker from the company. In fact, by the way, Alex, when I got your message yesterday, you surpassed Neil. Neil had like 35, 40 people. You guys had, I think, 75 or 80 people from your company watching. So thank you. Okay. And again, I want to thank all the brokers that got involved in the watch party system we offered to get their people involved. So this point came directly from Neil. Never accept the word no when the word yes is still available. Or in essence, keep answering their objections. John, that's your hang up. Keep moving forward with a smile, okay? Because as soon as you become the big, strong, tough guy, they back away and defend themselves. And keep asking a lot of questions, because there is a yes out there, we just haven't found it. There's always a fish in the lake, just may not be looking for the bait that you're using. So you got to keep throwing that line out there all the time. You didn't even know that I was a former fisherman, did you, Ron? And the reason you didn't know is because I'm not, okay? Succeeding, I wrote, second thought is going from failure to failure with enthusiasm. And that's a quote from Warren Buffett, by the way, okay? Succeeding is going from failure to failure with enthusiasm. I did my job, Dan. I'm so excited. I didn't get the listing, but I know there's one coming because the numbers work in my favor. I've gone 3 times without getting a contract signed, and I list 70%. The next 7 sellers, it's a piece of cake. And that's the attitude you have to have. And then the third thought I wrote down, when a top agent was asked, how do you become great? He answered, learn to fail. And I remember, gosh darn it, Marcia from Dallas, Texas, Bill's sister, can't think of her last name, wonderful agent, retired. And she said in a panel one time at a retreat, you have to learn to fail falling forward. Because falling backward doesn't make any sense in terms of progress. Never accept a no and a yes available. Success is going from failure to failure with enthusiasm. Learn to fail and keep falling forward, because that's the name of the game. And then I wrote the next point. You have to start each day with the attitude, there is a listing or sale available today, and your job is to find it. So, okay, all of my great Las Vegas friends that are attending this event, okay, please put up your hands. Las Vegas agents attending. I want to see where you are. I think we have about 15, and we are so excited that all of you are here, okay? Is anybody going to list their home in Las Vegas for sale today? Yes. Is there going to be more than one listing taken? Yes. Are they going to call you? Oh, so now we're even. They're not calling me, I'm not calling them. What a deal. Can't make progress that way, okay? You have to always be looking for the next deal. I mean, it's the never-ending search. And it's not a needle in a haystack, because a needle in a haystack is almost impossible, Carlos. But there's people right now that you, if you were to call them, would say, in this hot market, could I get this price? And that's the opening for a good pre-qualifying process for each of us in this room. The next thought I wrote down, you have to develop the skill of asking good questions instead of talking all the time. We talked about it before. We're going to talk about it a little more right now. There are so many advantages of learning to ask questions. For example, you control the conversation versus telling them what you think, which gives you no control of the conversation. Second, you discover the prospect's motivation or lack of it. So if you were to move, where would you go next? We don't have any idea. You have no thought process of buying a bigger or smaller home. We don't know what we're going to do. Well, then why would we get together and talk about selling your home? Well, maybe we can get rich quick. So what price do you think about listing your home for? Well, we think they sell for $300. We'd want $5. Well, I think $5 is a little lower than where you should be going. Well, we're thinking $500,000. Well, thanks for your time. I'm sure there is a person that will list your property. Thank you, and hang up. Motivation. You learn their concerns and you can draw out their objections. I wrote draw up by mistake in the notes. You draw out their objections and their questions. It's one of the great advantages of asking questions. You draw out. So I pre-qualify. Do they ever, on a pre-qualifying process, get concerned about the price you want to give? How about every time? Okay, all the time. Okay. Do they ever in the pre-qualifying process want to ask you a question? Come on, say yes. What is my commission? And then when you call back to confirm and they've seen your package with your commission listed, do they ever question that? We noticed that you wrote a 6% commission and we are not willing to pay that. I can certainly appreciate that. Why don't we do this? To be 100% fair to you. Why don't, the moment I walk in the door tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I mean, as the door is closing, why don't we see if that commission makes sense? All right. And now I spend 20 minutes preparing my handling objections on a commission. They've given me the gift of the objection in advance to the questions I ask. I wrote down, you lead people through a conversation, which is what selling is all about, leading people to a desired result. And then, of course, I wrote, last, you bring the presentation to a conclusion by saying, would you sign the contract, please? And I've had people say to me, oh, you never want to say to a prospect, would you sign the contract, please? What do you say? Well, you know, you just kind of slide the pen across. Oh, come on. I mean, grow up. I mean, do you think that, like, dropping the pen is going to go, oh, my God, I guess I better pick it up and sign it? Watch. Would you sign the contract, please? So on the count of 3, everybody in the room, whoever's watching, wherever you are, on the count of 3, with a big smile on your face, I want you to say with confidence, would you sign the contract, please? With a smile on your face, in a strong tone of voice, on your mark, it said go 1, 2, 3. Okay, now this time with a smile. Because you went like this, which is not the contract. Okay, it's about as powerful as what I'm doing right now. So with a smile, Ryan, because you went like this. No, you didn't smile. Well, that's a smile, okay? So with a big smile on the count of three, okay, Ramon, stand up and lead because you have a huge smile. Stand up and lead us in this chant on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Would you sign the contract, please? Thank you for the good smile. Okay, that's good. Okay. I wrote to create a much faster start to the month of February because we're right around the corner, and to keep it going throughout the course of the year. Decide today on how you're going to rate the quality of a lead. Because leads are like prospecting. It's just a numbers game. You're going, Ron Wexler, wonderful, wonderful long-term client and friend out of Chicago, Illinois, a KW guy. Ron Wexler on the stage years ago said, "Now, Mike, you know the most important thing in lead follow-up?" And of course, he's a great sales guy. So I'm looking for some really big thing. The most important thing in lead follow-up is the size of the trash can next to your desk, because it's going to be full, because you're going to throw most of your leads away. But that is the opposite of most agents. We accumulate instead of discard. Okay, so every lead should have on the lead card in your computer the date you originated it, and then put next to it the date you're willing to throw it away. So for Mike Ferry, if I originated the lead on 6/10, Jeff, next to it I wrote 6/17. I would give a lead 7 days to respond to an appointment, or I just tossed them. And I was very comfortable because I was prospecting. Okay, but most of us, oh my God, we hold on to our leads, you know, like it's the last lead ever. Folks, there's more nuts than there are squirrels to eat them. Okay, if you're doing your job, Carly, talking to your database, if you're doing what Jeff did, obviously, what Dan and Matt did, what Ramon did, what Chris did, what so many of you do, which is always talking to people, you're going to have more leads than you need. So everybody needs to decide their definition of a lead. For me, it was 7 days early. We have a lot of agents still in the country today that are superstars that will keep leads in a incubation system, which I'm all for, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 months. But they never are involved in incubation. It's done by an assistant or a staff member. But then we also have agents all over the country that if a lead is not willing to give an appointment in 3 days from origination, they toss it. Okay? Everybody should have an opinion. And your opinion is never right or wrong. Your opinion is, does it work for you? But most people say, well, it's a lead, so what else do I need? The definition of that lead, okay? It's one of the hardest points. To make sure you're not wasting your time, to keep your schedule moving forward, measuring the depth of the motivation of each prospect is critical. We discover the depth of the motivation of the prospect by the amount and the quality of the questions we're willing to ask. It's called pre-qualifying. I had a very scary incident. Sabrina, what is that magnificent resort in Alberta? It's east of Calgary in the mountains. It's a Lake Louise. So I get invited, and this is Ron. I'm in a cast from my hip down is when I had that accident. You know, I'm on crutches and, you know, dragging my leg for 7 months, but I'm still speaking every day because I needed the money. Okay. So I'm in Lake Louise, and of course, to show you what a fanatic I am on golf, Dan, I'm playing golf on one leg, trying to hit a golf ball. That's pretty stupid, but, you know, hello, low IQ, it shows at times a lot, okay? Well, I do the seminar, and it was like August. Magnificent weather, and it is, if you ever have a chance to go to Lake Louise, it is one of the most beautiful places in North America. I mean, it's fabulous. Well, I do the seminar, and the next day I'm going to fly from there. There's a little private airport. I had chartered a jet to come pick me up fly me to Calgary. It was only probably a 30, 40-minute flight, and then get on an Air Canada flight to fly me back to LA. It snowed in August, which I've been in Wyoming doing seminars when it snowed in August in Wyoming. Well, I'm at the airport, it's snowing like crazy. It's a little private airport, probably a 4,000-foot runway, and I think it was a little Citation of some type of plane that I chartered. And the plane comes in, and you can hardly see it, and plane stops and pulls up to the gate that didn't exist because it was just almost like a little hut that I was waiting in. The door opens up, and the engines are on. The pilot comes out and said, we're going to take a few minutes and refuel. I said, great. So, they turn the engines off and they fuel the plane, and guy waves at me, to come out. And it's just interesting boarding pass, you just get the wave. So I get on the plane, and as I'm sitting down, he starts the engine. I said, whoa, what about the checklist? We don't have time. The checklist, I'm not going to count it. It doesn't, we're in a hurry because the storm's getting worse. I said, you know what, open the door. He said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm getting off the plane. You're not doing the checklist. We don't have time for the checklist. You're going to have to sit down. I said, open the door. I got off the plane. Interesting. The plane made an emergency landing 15 minutes later on a freeway. Now, I don't know if you've been in close calls on airplanes, which I've been in many, 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 many close calls because I flew every day for, 35 years. I mean, it's just part of the process. But you don't want to land in a jet on a freeway. I've learned that, okay? Well, the pre-flight checklist is the pre-qualifying process for the pilot. Rather an important part of the process. Would you like to have the highest motivation from the person you're talking to, yes or no? Yes. And how do you find out? Pre-qualifier, 100%, okay? So we have to stop in just a minute. Yesterday, Lori and I put together this fun little thing, and I'll gladly email it to all the viewers. Mike Ferry Coaching, what's the difference? And I'm not going to go through it now, but we listed all the benefits of one-on-one coaching, which is one page of benefits. And then we listed, Ron, on the second page, Premier Coaching, which is all of page 1 benefits plus 2 more pages of benefits. And I typed it up to go through it, but I don't want to do it at this time. We'll do it tomorrow morning. But for all of our viewers, if you send a note to mike.ferry@mikeferry.com, we'll email this to you this afternoon. And like Ron said this morning, I don't think there's ever been a time in our lives where coaching is more important than today. I really think that. Thank you. But I also fully recognize the problem, and that is the fact that, the gap between those that are producing and those that are not producing is the widest it's ever been. And the percentage of agents that are producing at a high level is the smallest percentage I've ever seen in my life. And many of you watching may not be in that top percentage, which are all coaching clients of people like me, or are great competitors in the market. But the vast majority of the agents are in this category, which is relatively low production, and the commitment to coaching is a hard commitment to make. But sometimes to move ahead in life, you have to make sacrifices. And you guys have all made the sacrifice, and I appreciate that. And a lot of you need to make the sacrifice. Well, I was in coaching once with a company and it was terrible. Fine, okay, it was terrible. That's your past. You've had listings that never sold. You've had deals that fell apart. Sometimes life is terrible. Watch, we were the first coaching company, and we will be the last coaching company. So we want to get... Because what I do is not going to stop when I stop. And of course, 2 years ago, as some of you know, I was had an onslaught of people saying, when are you going to retire? And really, most of it was coming through our competition. They were asking people, when is this guy going to retire? So 2 years ago at the production retreat, I finally announced my retirement. And I can give you my retirement date. So you guys ready? Say yes. Yes. I'm going to stop when you start. When you're doing what I say, then I'll hang it up. But then we have Ron and Tony and Ira and all these great people that will keep this message going forever. So the message is not going to stop. Okay? Period. You folks viewing, thank you for being part of it. You folks that are here, obviously, thanks for being part of it. We are going to be working the next couple of days to find out when and where we can do a couple live events where we have 200 or 300 people again. Because for me, when we finished yesterday, it was the best afternoon I've experienced probably since September. And the best afternoon before that was February when I did my last live event. I mean, to me, it's the most important thing that I and we do together. So we're going to be researching on how we can do this, because there are certain states where this type of thing is allowed, certain states where it's not. So I want to again say to all of our viewers, we're looking forward to seeing you face to face. And for you guys and gals, we will see you at 8:30, 8:45 tomorrow morning. Thank you for day 2. Okay? Thank you. Great.